This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 577, recorded on Wednesday, July 27th, 2016. Space is not a taco. Hey everyone, I am Dr. Kiki, and we are here once again to fill your heads with dingoes, spinning gas, and curbs. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. The future is not here yet. Yes, we discovered the Higgs. Yes, we can cut, splice, and program DNA and RNA. Yes, there are self-driving cars. Yes, the most powerful computer you have ever purchased fits in your pocket. Yes, the first black president of the United States served 2 terms. And yes, he is likely to be replaced by the first female president. But this is just the present day. The future has much more in store from us. Not all of it is positive, but so much of it is positive that we will propel ourselves into the future knowing that there are obstacles and knowing that we are alive in the generation that overcomes them, the generation that solves hard problems and applies easy solutions to problems that never should have stood as obstacles to begin with. The future isn't here yet, but it is about to be. Here on This Week in Science, coming up next.
I've got the kind of mind I can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to you, Kiki and Blair. And we have a guest.
And we do have a guest. And good science to you, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are here yet again to discuss the world of science, to learn things, lots and lots of things, and really we're going to talk a lot about space tonight. We've got great news because we have a guest, the one, the only, the wonderful Plait, the Bad Astronomer himself, and he'll be joining us to discuss science and space and wonderful things like that. But other than that, I have more stories about space, and then I also have stories about brains and other things. Justin, what'd you bring?
I've just got oily palms. That's really all I have.
Yeah, but what did you bring for the show?
That's what I brought for the show. Oily palms.
Okay. Oh, that's it. One story. Oily palms.
It's a big story.
I was ready for more, and then there wasn't. Okay. All right, Blair, what's in the animal corner tonight?
Oh, I have animal cannibals. I have sloths that are sloths. And I have lichen that took a liken to something we didn't know.
I love all these things. I'm so excited to talk about all of them. But first, let's dive right into some space news. We've got some fun news coming from outer space. And Phil, if you want to chime in on any of these stories at any point in time, please feel free to give us your 2 cents, because your 2 cents is more like, I don't know, 10 or 20 cents.
It's like 30 cents, yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, don't sell him short. It's 30.
Okay, so really interesting news. Researchers at Boston University Center for Space Physics have reported in Nature that they looked at Jupiter's Great Red Spot. In fact, they actually just looked at all of Jupiter, and they're trying to figure out why the upper atmosphere of Jupiter is so hot. Like it's really hot, but Jupiter's really far away from the sun, so it doesn't get as much solar energy for that upper atmospheric heating. So there's got to be some kind of heat coming from down within the planet of Jupiter, all those hot gases, but somehow they're mixing upwards, and the researchers are trying to figure out how that happens. So they looked at the infrared radiation around the planet to be able to get an idea of where heat was building up. And do you know where it decided to collect? Do you have any guess on the entire planet of Jupiter where a hot spot might be.
Well, okay, hang on, let me guess. I only know of one spot on Jupiter. Can I guess? Can I guess
Yeah.
That's the spot?
The Great Red Spot marks the spot. So they were looking about 500 miles higher than the cloud tops that you can see in those pretty pictures of Jupiter, looking at non-visible infrared light that was being emitted by the planet, and they found that it collected right over the Great Red Spot. And so what they believe is happening is that the spinning of the Great Red Spot is it's mixing, and it's actually allowing for an upward vortex that is taking non-solar energy of heat energy and taking it up out of the planet, out of the gas cloud, and into that upper atmosphere to heat it up. But I'm guessing that maybe this is the kind of thing that we can take a look at with Juno, as Juno is collecting information. So anyway, the implications for this that are kind of exciting are being able to look not just at Jupiter, but at other planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and maybe even all giant exoplanets outside of our solar system, that we might have this kind of this heat transfer, and that there might be mechanisms like the Great Red Spot, a perpetual hurricane that can drag heat from one location to another.
So then so if I got this right, then this is the heat near the surface of the planet must be much, much hotter, but this red spot is kicking that heat up and pushing it up into the atmosphere. That's what's saying. It's like it's just redirecting it, or sort of pulling it, like funneling it up to that specific area, and then radiating out. Is that?
Yeah, and then it's radiating out, exactly. So it's like a heat funnel. The Great Red Spot is like a heat funnel to the outer atmosphere of Jupiter.
And is that what's keeping it going too? Like, is that heat? Is it like a hot hurt?
Right. So is that one of the reasons that it continues? Is it because it's actually acting as part of the overall movement, a heat generator and heat engine, or a heat transfer engine for the atmosphere? Don't know. Yeah. So they're going to keep looking at those kinds of questions. Additionally, moving further out, but we're taking radio pictures using LIGO, the LIGO-Virgo collaboration. We have spoken of several times as detecting these gravitational waves from the merger of two black holes, and it's not happened once but twice now, and this is exciting news. So researchers are kind of going to the drawing board and going, all right, so what kinds of black holes could these be? Could LIGO have detected primordial black holes? And primordial black holes are kind of this cool class of black holes because they didn't form from the collapse of a star or a celestial body. They formed just from the collapse of a dense area of gassy space. So it was like after the Big Bang, when things started cooling off and collecting into clumps and not really being big stars yet, but these primordial black holes could have formed from just the matter, where there are places with lots of matter, and so they'd be the oldest black holes. And if we saw them merging and got gravitational waves from primordial black holes, that could potentially tell us interesting things about the moments shortly, quote unquote, after the beginning of our universe.
Right. And wouldn't it make sense to have, because that's what black holes are, they're massive collections of matter, and when the universe was more dense, it was easier probably to collect that matter. It was already closer by. It was easier to absorb or get the black hole started.
Yeah.
So you'd sort of, it's actually a bit surprising that a black hole could even form now in the, sort of desperately undense regions of space as we're becoming more and more rural with our address in the universe every day. So yeah, I mean, and go ahead.
No, it's being done differently now. That's what Kiki was saying. You can form black holes now from the collapse of very massive stars. That's one way. There are some other little bit tougher ways. We also think they formed along with galaxies, some of these supermassive black holes that formed at the same time the galaxies did 10 or 12 billion years ago. But these primordial black holes would have formed because when the universe was moments after it was born, it was very dense, like you said. It's the stuff is denser, so it's easier to form a black hole. Plus, the forces that were being tossed around were so huge that just a little ripple in the fabric of space and time could compress something and make it form a little tiny black hole. And that's something that can't happen now, but then there weren't stars back then either to form black holes the way they are now. So just things were different, and we get different kinds of black holes.
And so, are those primordial black holes what we would think of is the foundation of like a quasar or something that's at the center of a galaxy that sort of is pulled as much matter around it as it's going to devour in one meal, I guess, in one couple billion years, and now the rest of that matter that didn't quite get pulled in but didn't get yanked in somewhere else is what's forming the galaxy around that nucleus, or do these come much later?
I would say it's the galaxies come much later. The galaxies actually formed around, as we understand it, filaments and ribbons that are hundreds of millions of light years long of dark matter that actually collected after the universe cooled enough for this stuff to be able to do that. And then the normal matter basically was drawn towards that, and that's what collapsed to form galaxies with these black holes in the center.
The Japanese researchers who are talking about the possibility that LIGO and Virgo actually detected the merger of primordial black holes. They say the detected gravitational waves were created from a merger of two black holes 30 times the mass of the Sun. It's extremely rare for such massive black holes to form in the present-day universe. And after this announcement, many astrophysicists started considering how such heavy black holes were created and how such black hole binaries were formed. And so the theoretical models about the beginning of the universe are still hotly contested, they say. Some models necessarily predict the existence of primordial black holes, so their discovery could help unlock important clues about the universe's early days. So what we need is more LIGO data. That's what we need. More data, more data. And then my final spacey intro story, I got all themed up because Phil was here today. Really neat study funded by NASA, actually using, though, the European Space Agency's XMM Newton telescope. They published a paper in Astrophysical Journal looking at the hot gas halo that is around the Milky Way galaxy. So basically looking outward from the Milky Way to determine what the gas cloud around the Milky Way is doing. Don't really have an idea. Some people have thought it's just a gas cloud sitting there around the Milky Way. Well, looking at this gas cloud with this telescope, they were able to observe shifts around the sky using lines of very hot oxygen. And they were looking at the shift in the wavelength of the light to be able to determine how it was moving. What they found is that the halo is spinning, and it's spinning in the same direction as the Milky Way, and it's spinning pretty fast. We're spinning at around 540,000 miles per hour. We're spinning, the disk of the Milky Way is about 540,000 miles per hour, and the halo of gas is spinning at about 400,000 miles per hour. So we're surrounded by a hot spinning cloud of dusty gas. And what they're trying to figure out from this is how matter came out of the original gas cloud from which the Milky Way formed. So we had a gas cloud, eventually matter started settling out, the matter settled out, turned into this flat spinning disk. The flat spinning disk kept spinning up because it matter and acceleration and all that, and all of a sudden we have the congealing and the forming of the stars and the solar systems within the Milky Way galaxy. So now we can look at this and try and determine the future of our galaxy. What's going to happen to all the matter in the galaxy. And the spinning of the gas could maybe give us clues as to that future. Yeah. The destiny of the Milky Way galaxy is within our grasp. No. Maybe not. It might be reaching a little bit.
There it is. Ha!
Aha!
I found a picture. Something you said reminded me of something. And happily, oh my gosh, I just looked this up on the web, and what do I find? My own blog. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, now all I have to do is figure out how to do a screen share. And, talk amongst yourselves.
Click the little screen. There's a little
Green TV screen.
There it is.
Yeah.
This one. Share.
What
Is
are
that
we
me?
getting?
Am I screen sharing?
You are screen sharing.
Yay! So the picture that you're seeing is a far infrared shot of the Milky Way galaxy. You're seeing dust, basically, and this is all along the disk of the galaxy. On the bottom left there is this blue bubbly thing. That is what's called a blowout. Something has happened there, either winds from stars or a supernova, a star's exploded or something, and that has blown out of all of this junk and is sending gas and other material out into the halo of the galaxy. So that the halo of the galaxy is a lot of stuff left over from when the galaxy formed, but it's also being replenished by the galaxy itself. And it's not. As last I read, and it's been a while since I read about this. It's unclear how much of all of this is contributing to what's out there now. There are other effects too. There's these gigantic bubbles, and I mean gigantic, like 10% of the size of the galaxy, getting blown out of the center of the galaxy, and nobody was really sure what was causing those. And it turns out it's stars being born, and when you form millions and millions of stars, they blow out all of this material, and you get these two bubbles, one blowing out of the top and one blowing out of the bottom of the galaxy. And it's not clear if that stuff's just going to settle back down into the galaxy, fall back in like a fountain, or if it's going to go back out into the halo or not. If anybody knows the answer, go ahead and put it on Twitter. Because like I said, I'm not exactly up to speed with all this. It's hard to keep up with everything going on.
It's so interesting also to think of us, as in this disk, that we're not in some kind of ball structure. We're in a disk, and that disk is flat. And like you said, it's we have when a star is born, you have gas that blows out on either side of the disk, or really all around it. And so you have that gas cloud that's kind of ringed around our little disk. It'll be neat to know. I want to know, as we leave the Milky Way galaxy and enter these all these different speeds of movement. If we sent a ship from our solar system, out of our solar system, into the plane of the Milky Way galaxy, and then out of the Milky Way galaxy, how would you deal with all of those changes in speed?
It's all relative, though.
It's all relative.
It really is, because like how we don't really feel the speed of the planet spinning, which is in a solar system that's spinning, in a galaxy that's spinning in a galaxy. I don't know what direction our galaxy's moving. How fast is the galaxy moving separate from the spin? Maybe it's in a big hub of other galaxies that are also spinning, and everything now is spinning.
It's all relative, so the answer is zero.
Yeah.
0.
I was going to say, yeah.
All right,
How much
this
likes
is...
does he have?
Oh, he has a lot of likes, Kai.
How much subscribers?
Look at this! Look at this little media intern over here.
Social media mogul already.
He is.
This
This
is
is
analytics.
science. Justin, what you got?
There is a menace that is threatening forests across 4 continents. It is a threat that not only leads to massive deforestation, but to the species that live in them, regardless of protected status. It is rapidly destroying habitats, reducing biodiversity, and increasing greenhouse emissions at the same time it is reducing the planet's ability to deal with rising carbon levels. The dangerous nature of this culprit has been detailed in the Public Library of Science Online and a new Duke University-led study.
Hey, Justin, you turned into a robot.
Did I really? Uh-oh, hang on.
Yeah, you're a Cylon at the moment.
Okay.
He's gone. The chat room is now saying, "Oh no, he's no robots. He's gone toaster."
Skin job.
That's right. The menace of cyborg Justin.
And he has a plan.
He'd better have a plan.
I'm
He's
just
looking.
making Battlestar jokes.
Yeah. I haven't. I loved that show until the very end. Ruined at the end. Let me hear you, Justin. Now I can't hear you at all. Nope. Okay, we're gonna go to Blair's Animal Corner, and then you could nope. We're gonna move ahead to Blair's Animal Corner, and you restart or fix or do the things. All right.
It's like he knew this was going to happen. He only brought one story.
I know. This is This Week in Science, and you know what's up next? Blair's Animal Corner.
She loves our creature, cried and small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. Wanna hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels that are both her.
Let's talk about animals.
Okay, let's do it. What do you
Yeah. So let's start with some sloths. What makes sloths so adorable?
Their cute little faces.
Yeah, is it their
And-
squishy face?
And their long, loose limbs.
Yeah, is it their long limbs? Is it the fact that they hang upside down? I think it also has to do with the fact that they move.
They have sharp claws.
They're
Very
terrifying claws. That's what makes them so adorable.
slow. Yeah, so they're kind of funny animals. They have a lot of adaptations that you don't really see anywhere else in the animal kingdom. They also fundamentally inhibit a niche that is very underutilized. And that is they are a herbivorous mammal that lives in trees and stays in trees. There's not a lot of those. So recent research from the University of Wisconsin-Madison looked at sloths and why this is such an unusual life strategy. They have so many weird adaptations that get them to that point where they can live in that niche. They, like he was saying, they have these super elongated and reinforced bones in their arms. They have special claws that help them hold on. They have a body plan that's very weird. Not to mention my personal favorite sloth fact, that they only poo once a week. And they climb down from the trees and awkwardly scurry on the ground to poo and then go back up into the trees. That's so they don't give up their position in the trees by letting it fall wherever it may. So all of that creates all these, it's all of these special adaptations that they have to living in this very underused area and to take these resources that not a lot of animals are using. If you look at other animals that live in the top of the rainforest, like parrots, they're not eating leaves. They eat fruits. They eat nuts. They don't eat leaves at all, really. So how are the sloths eating these leaves, and why are they, and why aren't other animals doing that? Well, it can all come down to looking at their metabolism. So when you look at other animals that eat leaves, like moose, elk, deer, they are very large, and they have very large stomachs. So they can store huge amounts of leaves in their stomachs in order to get the energy they need to survive. Because in order to live off of plant leaves, you have to eat a lot of them. The sloths
Right, and they have many of these animals are ruminants. They have 4 stomachs. They have a chamber specifically for fermenting and using bacteria to help break everything down.
Yeah. So
what's going on with the sloths?
Yeah. So in order to find out, they monitored their metabolism. They actually used isotopically labeled water to measure the daily energy expenditure of both 2- and 3-toed sloths. And they looked at them in the actual tropical rainforest canopies. These are not in captivity. The 3-toed sloths, which are the more specialized to their environment than the 2-toed sloths, they expend around 460 kilojoules of energy a day. That is the equivalent to 110 calories. And the article likens that to the amount of calories found in a baked potato. So it's the lowest measured energetic output for any mammal. So by measuring the cost of a sloth existing for a day, they found that these sloths, they move slow and they have this kind of sedentary lifestyle because they have found a way to exist with so few nutrients and without having to find other ways to get energy besides just their leaves. The leaves have made enough as long as they can slow their body down and only use about 110 calories a day.
It sounds like a panda type problem too. Like,
except that these guys actually have the correct bacteria to process leaves, which gives them a huge upturn from the pandas. Because remember, the pandas have they have bacteria in their stomach for processing meat, so they just always have a stomach ache. But the sloths actually process leaves.
Still, there's some point where you're like, that might have been an evolutionarily poor decision. Like there might have been.
Sloths are doing okay though. They hang out in the trees and they eat their leaves and they move slowly, and that's what they do. And then they also aren't there. Isn't there a symbiotic relationship with a nutrient-producing fungus or bacteria that lives in their fur as well?
So, to my knowledge, the algae that grows on their fur
that's what
helps them to camouflage. I haven't heard much about them eating it, but I could be wrong about that. I'll check during the break. But to my knowledge, that's why if you go out into the rainforest in Costa Rica, the likelihood of you actually seeing a sloth is extremely low because they're so well camouflaged by the algae.
And they're really not moving very fast to be
if at all.
They're just hanging out, not being seen.
Yeah, so if you think about how radiation works in the evolution of species, when there's a huge adaptive radiation where a bunch of animals try to use a new space or a new niche that has not yet been used, some stick, some don't. So this was a huge niche that had a giant hole in it, but according to one of the researchers on this project, the quote is, "Think about it. The food sucks. It's only plant leaves. You have to exploit a very constrained niche." So because the food sucks in the top of the rainforest, you have to find a way to get along, and most species couldn't do it. So the sloth figured out a way, and by figured out, I mean that over many, many generations of adaptation, their metabolism slowed, they found ways to expend less energy, and those animals were able to survive and reproduce and thrive off of this very low energetic input. So,
and now we can say that there was a sloth-sized hole in that ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and for example, I think about the ground sloth that was in North America. They're huge. So even though they're eating just sucky plant material, they have a huge stomach, so they can consume a lot of it. Plus, I want to remind all of our TWIS listeners that we found out recently that deer will eat meat. So there you go.
Now we have to find out whether or not sloths would.
I'm thinking no.
Probably not. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sloths. Now,
who else eats meat though?
Oh well, you will not be surprised to hear that dingoes eat meat. However, you will be surprised to hear that dingoes eat dingoes.
Cannibalistic
Dun, dun,
dingoes.
dun.
Yeah, so this is a story that I actually got from a TWIS listener. I got it from Paul Stanton on Twitter at Vortiger, and he sent this my way last week. The dingoes, they've been known to, only a couple of times in the past, they've been recorded showing cannibalistic tendencies, but they were during famine. So there's lots of species of animals that have been seen to have cannibalistic tendencies in times of hardship, including humans. Donner Party, right? So these things happen. But there are some species that just eat it as available food. Not a lot. One of the more famous examples are octopus. They will actually occasionally eat other cephalopods even if there's other food nearby. But for the most part, this is not something that we see a lot. Now, I wonder if this is because we're not looking for it and because it
Possibly.
creeps us out. So we're not looking for it. We're not setting camera traps for this. We're not recording these stats because we don't want to look at it. That's my soapbox moment.
But you would think you would see. I mean, we have enough animals in captivity that we don't have in solitude. You would think that we would have seen it enough in the zoo level,
But
right? Or
Justin,
the
you're
aquarium.
forgetting something. You're forgetting that animals in zoos often don't hunt because they're fed. And why would an animal hunt if they don't have to?
Well, it's like but it's like the octopus, right? Like, there's food available, but I'm feeling like calamari. It's kind of
Right.
I'd rather do that.
So what happened here was that in control measures in Australia, they were actually starting to poison dingoes because the dingoes have really gotten out of control recently, killing livestock, native animals, including wallabies, and koalas, which, if you recall also from previous Blair's Animal Corners, we've talked about the koala population being in a pretty steep decline, and so we don't want koalas getting eaten by dingoes. That's not a great thing. The dingo population's on the other side doing very well. So they have been slowly being exterminated, and there have been cameras getting set up near the traps. And on one particular day, Paul Meek at the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries, he was clearing out traps and had cleared out so many traps in that day, came across another dingo, said he'd come back the next day. When he came back, it was pretty much gone. Just intestines were left. And the only nocturnal predators in the area are dingoes. But there's no shortage of food because of the livestock, because of the wildlife, but also because there's a local industrial kitchen that throws out scraps right by the site. So there's no way these dingoes are starving, but they ate one of their own. It was already dead. But then they started setting up more cameras, and they actually found multiple cases of dingoes feasting on dead, trapped dingoes, and a couple of observations of them aggressively circling still living dogs that had just been trapped. So again, I want to mention that none of these were healthy dingoes that were chased down and hunted by other dingoes to eat. These were all dingoes that were either already dead or trapped, meaning they were likely to be dead later. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But it's definitely interesting, and I think that overall what's to be learned about this is that the whole idea of cannibalism in animals perhaps needs to be looked at a little bit closer, because I really do think that there's a lot of kind of selective blind eye turning in a lot of situations where if we took a closer look at a lot of predators, there's a chance that they could be doing this more than we thought.
Curious, I don't know if it mentions there, but are these dingoes in the same pack? The ones getting devoured? Because there's such an aggressive predator that I could see them seeing another pack or a non-kin dingo as not just a threat, but also fair game as food.
Yeah, so according to the camera traps, the way that they're set up, I don't think that's something that we would be able to know based on the current data that we have. That would be interesting to see.
But they do think it has to do not with the scavenging or food shortages, but maybe similar to the urban bird story that we were talking about, actually animal density, that there are too many dingoes.
Mm.
Well, and if you think about it, if you're a predator and there's an animal caught in a trap, why would you try to hunt something that is going to take a bunch of energy to hunt? The weird thing is that the food scraps are around the corner.
Maybe dingoes just taste really good.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's what it is.
You got to go with the simple solution sometimes.
Yeah. There you go. You heard it here first. Dingoes are delicious.
Oh, and no, the dingo did not eat my baby.
The dingo ate my dingo.
The dingo ate my dingo. There we go.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for Blair's Animal Corner. Hey, you know, I think it's about time that we took a break, and when we come back, I think we're gonna ask Phil some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll make up some answers.
That sounds fantastic. All right, stay with us. This is This Week in Science. We'll be back in just a few moments. Hey everyone, I just want to say thank you so much for subscribing to us on YouTube. Because of you, we reached our goal of 10,000 subscribers last week. We are now actually at like 10,089 subscribers, and I'm so excited to see the numbers continuing to climb, all because of you subscribing to our YouTube channel, which is This Week in Science TWIS. So thank you very much. We could not have done it without you. Really appreciate your help in getting us to the goal that we wanted to reach. Now, we're not done, right? Now it's onward and upward to that next goal. Got to keep it climbing. TWIS also has merchandise that you might enjoy, so head on over to TWIS.org, where you will find a link to our Zazzle store. And our Zazzle store is where you will find all sorts of TWIS-themed merchandise. TWIS-themed merchandise such as the cell phone cover that Blair is holding up. It's from her original artwork from the This Week in Science, Blair's Animal Corner calendar for 2016. She's working on new artwork for 2017, so there'll be maybe more phone covers. I don't know. But right now, if you head to TWIS.org, you will be able to go to Zazzle. Our Zazzle link is right in the top of the header bar. Click on that Zazzle store link, and it will take you to our Zazzle page where you'll find hats and shirts and mugs and all sorts of fun TWIS logo-themed items, as well as items that are directly from the Blair's Animal Corner TWIS calendar and our Blair's art. Lots of fun stuff there. Additionally, at TWIS.org, you will find opportunities to donate. We have PayPal button. It's a nice little yellowy orange button right on the main page. It says donate, support TWIS. Click on that. It'll take you to a PayPal donation page where you will easily be able to choose your donation amount, whether or not you want to make it recurring or just a one-time thing. You can make it a PayPal donation. You can also use a credit card. Very easy interface to be able to donate using that donation button. Additionally, we have a link to Patreon. Patreon, Patreon, is where you can donate in an ongoing fashion and receive some fun gifts in return. You can donate just $1 all the way up to however much you want, but we have various levels of support. And if you donate at the $15 or more per episode level, Blair will hand draw you a piece of art. She's working on her art right now, and she's showing you one of her new pieces, what kind of fish is that, Blair?
It's a Garibaldi. It's the California state saltwater fish.
There we go. So you can get original art by donating. There are lots of other neat packages that we have for you if you would like to donate and support us. through Patreon. Additionally, we just released a special video only for our patrons. First release. It will be released to everybody else very soon, but you get first look because if you are a Patreon sponsor. So Patreon, PayPal, if you can donate and have the financial means to do so, we really appreciate your support because it does help us do all of the things that we continue to do, trying to bring you more science every week. If you are unable to support us financially, help us out that way. You can help us out all sorts of ways, like by subscribing to us on YouTube, giving us reviews on iTunes, giving us reviews on Stitcher, on Spreaker, on SoundCloud, all the various places that we exist. If you can review us and help us find new listeners to join our minion army, we will really appreciate that because with more minions, we can bring you more good science. We really thank you for your support. We could not do this without you.
What that means, you've stopped eating all of that sinister food. Your dinner tastes awful, so it's gotta be good. Still, you can't believe what a skeptic I am. I can't believe you believe in that plan.
And we're back with more This Week in Science.
Oh, yeah, we are back. This is This Week in Science. Thank you so much for listening and for joining us. The second half of our show, we are joined tonight by Dr. Philip Plait, who also is known as the Bad Astronomer. He writes Slate's Bad Astronomy blog. He's an astronomer, hence the astronomy tie-in there. He's a public speaker. He is a television host. He is a science evangelizer. He's an author of a book called Death from the Skies, because, you know, we're all going to die of various causes of things falling from the sky. Like a tree limb, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, Philip, thank you so much for joining us tonight on TWIS.
Of course. My pleasure.
So I reached out to you last week, 2 weeks ago, because the anniversary of Neil Armstrong's moonwalk, which was the first moonwalk ever, was last Wednesday, July 20th.
Happened right over there, by the way.
It did, right behind you, right there. Yeah, exactly. Yes, Justin. So you're a skeptic, Phil, and you work very, very hard, tirelessly even, to debunk conspiracy theories. Where are we? Where do we stand now on the kind of moon landing conspiracy theory? Are people still bugging you a lot about that?
Well, where we stand now is that things haven't changed. The moon landings were real, and the moon hoax believers are still wrong. Pretty much it. Yeah, you know, this idea that the moon landings are fake has been around basically since the Apollo missions. There were people even at the time who were writing editorials to newspapers back, you know, when people wrote editorials to newspapers, and they were claiming this couldn't be possible for whatever bizarre reason. And it's kind of always sort of filtered around in the background. And then in the late 1990s, it started to get a little bit more popular. And then finally, Fox TV aired a TV show called Conspiracy Theory. Did we land on the moon? And if it had just been somebody going, well, yeah, it would have been a really short, you know, TV show. So they presented a bunch of basically crap evidence that they gleaned from conspiracy theory websites. And at that point, this whole thing became huge. You had radio, TV, on the web, all the stuff. It was everywhere you could look. And it was everything I could do to try to put that out, because it's just nonsense. And as it happens with most conspiracy theories, it died away. Basically, once television and the web and everybody's interest moved on, it went away. But I know it's always going to be out there. There are people today who obviously were born long after the moon landings were done. People born in the space shuttle era or whatever, and ever since then we've not been able to go back to the moon. So there's a little bit of traction to this in a lot of people's minds. But in the end, when you look at the evidence, it's just baloney.
So, and I think there's got to be, you know, robots on Mars is something that we've done a few times now. So, like, the idea that you could leave the planet and send something somewhere else can't be that, you know. I mean, I get for the first generation of people who experience this, that could be like, what? They really think we're going to believe they put somebody on the moon? Come on. Like, but now we're leaving the planet all the time. It shouldn't seem that obscene. Is there a grain of truth though? This is something I have to ask you because it
No.
sounds like you've been no. To one of the arguments that I've heard of why some people might have been fooled into believing it was a hoax. This idea that there was some fear that they wouldn't be able to get transmission back, and that they may not be able to sort of present man on the moon as it was happening, so that there was a mock-up done in a CBS studio so that they could have something to put on the screen as the actual moon landing was happening in case we couldn't get a transmission back. Is that a grain of truth? Because I've heard that some bad mock-ups of what man might look like on the moon is what contributed to the entire conspiracy theory.
I've heard stuff like that. I don't know where the stuff comes from. I don't know of any backup sets that were done. I don't think NASA would really have agreed to do this. On the other hand, NASA itself created basically a moon set to basically put the astronauts in spacesuits, hoist them up on cranes basically to sort of remove their weight and try to simulate the lunar environment so that when the astronauts first of all, to do that so that they could at least see what was going on. And it's like, this spacesuit doesn't work because you can't bend over, or it's hard to do this or hard to do that. How do we improve it? And also that way the astronauts are more used to being in that sort of environment. You don't just pick up 3 balls and start juggling. You've got to practice first for a while until you get that muscle memory. And in fact, that's why NASA has a huge tank of water in Johnson Space Center in Houston, so the astronauts can be underwater, and it mimics being in space. And so they train there, so that when they actually go into space, they sort of have that memory, that muscle memory of how to do it. Actually, on the cover of my first book, Bad Astronomy, where I have a chapter on the moon hoax, on the cover we have a picture of 2 of the astronauts in these goofy-looking suits on this terrible-looking set, and we did that on purpose because the joke is, here is a faked picture of the moon landing, but it's not really faked. It's simulated because it was just one of those tests.
Gotcha.
And yeah, they had to do a lot of simulations. There are a lot of trying to figure out how to be in space without actually being in space. A lot of that had to go on.
And also you got to realize what you're doing here is you're bringing facts to a non-fact fight. You can always come up with something, and you got to realize too that when people buy into something like the moon landings being fake, as is a pretty good example actually, and you have a conspiracy theory, it's based on sort of half knowledge. You show them a picture and say, why aren't the shadows parallel? Why aren't the shadows inky black? Why does this happen? Why does that happen? And you kind of put these doubts in people's mind, convince them that maybe something was going on. Then if somebody like me comes along and says, well, the shadows aren't parallel because of perspective, and the shadows aren't inky black because there's all sorts of reflections going on the lunar surface, and this and this and this, if they've already bought into the theory, right, they've already removed themselves from the sort of the path of logic. So I can bring all these facts to it, even debunking the reasons they believed it in the first place, and it doesn't matter because now they are embedded in this thing, and they will find ways of rejecting the ideas I'm giving them. Or they accept some of the ideas but not some of the others, and they say, well, I think they faked it anyway. And then you're like, yeah, well, okay, I hope you don't vote.
Because they're all coming to it from, like, some might be, hopefully there's less and less of these people, but they may be flat earthers that believe that it's anti-religious conspiracy. Some people may think that the government does nothing but lie to them, and that we're living in some sort of 1984 world, right? Like, there's a bunch of things that can bring people to it. The one, and I admit, I will fully admit, when I heard that the lunar rover was built by GM and worked, I was a little like, how is that possible? They can barely build anything. But it's good to hear that you're hearing less of that. Like, you're getting less of those.
Yeah.
I know that when we
first, it is still out there. I hear like high school students and stuff, but it's just sort of
Or they've given up challenging experts, because this is another. We used to, when this show first started 10 years ago, we used to get a lot of creationist emails. We used to get a lot of people wanting to challenge evolution, talking to us. And they stopped. Now, I don't know that people no longer believe in the creationist story, but I think maybe over time they've sought less input or argument from outside of the bubble.
I think the bubble might be an issue there. You know, everybody is finding their own people on social media and developing their own echo chambers. Let's try and get away from echo chambers.
Yeah, and there
I
are
think that
rabbit holes on the internet.
each kind of controversial topic that's been around for a while, at first they don't know where their people are, and that's when you hear from them a lot. And then yes, they find their own bubble. They kind of disassociate. The most recent example of that I can think of is the anti-vaccine movement that we've talked a lot about on the show too. That this whole conspiracy theory of vaccines causing autism and that sort of thing is that those people at first didn't. It kind of transcended all of these other borderlines that you would expect would kind of contain a lot of these types of things. We certainly got some lashback from that. And then eventually, it's been a few years, you're hearing less and less from them. And that's really the question: is have they gone away, or have they just self-selected themselves into their own little circles?
Or realized what they had self-selected themselves into and looked around the bubble and went, okay.
What was Phil going to say?
I need to leave this bubble now. Yeah, okay.
No, the anti-vaxxers are still out there. I can absolutely guarantee that. Very strong in Australia. The head of the Green Party right now has promoted anti-vax beliefs. Those folks are still out there. The documentary called Vaxxed, which is created by Andrew Wakefield, who is basically the father of the modern anti-vax movement, that was screened, and he somehow got Robert De Niro to start believing in this nonsense. You don't hear from people like Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey much anymore. Some of these mouthpieces for the anti-vax movement, and I think when they start to get interviewed and everything, that stuff rises up. When you have one big figure that is promoting something awful, little figures rise up. There may be other places that this occurs, like say politics, but it certainly happens in anti-science movements. So they're still out there. It may be that you're not hearing about them. It may be that, like you said, they're moving into their own bubble, but they're still out there trying to find each other, and we still get outbreaks of measles and pertussis and other preventable diseases because of them.
Yeah. And I think to an extent, something that in that particular instance doesn't get picked up perhaps or continued by mainstream media as much, just because it results in dead children. And isn't that fun of thing to get a bunch of ratings saying the moon landing might have been hoaxed and get a bunch of those people to watch when you have a real world consequence. That's something like dying kids or elderly people.
Mm-hmm. It's like Sharknado. All of a sudden, you're worried about sharks when.
Well, that's what I was thinking about too. Is during Shark Week.
Sharknado?
No, I was thinking particularly
I'm still
about
trying to figure out
how
that leap of logic there.
Yeah, it was, so how there were these quote documentaries about how the moon landing was fake, and in my line of work, when they had the documentary about how the megalodon is still around, and then I spent a year telling kids, no, it's not, no.
And Shark Week is a really interesting example of this because there's a lot of sciencey stuff done on, perhaps more and more so now, on Shark Week, where I've learned a ton about sharks from scientists researching sharks. But then there'll be one where it's like, does the mythical swamp shark that practices voodoo occasionally take people from swamps in Louisiana? And you're like, okay, well, they've got a target audience there that's not me, and it's still under the umbrella of Shark Week. But the last one episode I watched was really fascinating about breeding habits or migration habits of the great whites off the Pacific coast. So It's a mix that draws people in.
But they all
Yeah,
start at
and
the same basis of, well, what if?
what if? And that's where a lot of this starts. Where do
Yeah.
we stand right now, Phil, on the space program as it stands? I mean, we haven't, like you said, we haven't been back to the moon in a really long time, and people are talking about it kind
Is
of.
the moon that boring of a place to visit?
It's not. It's
No,
not.
not at all.
Okay, then why haven't we gone back? What's
Because
the
it's
delay?
expensive.
Oh.
It's
Because
expensive.
it's hard to do. And I don't mean to be flippant, but that's really true. I mean, the reason we haven't gone back is because we went there in the first place for the wrong reason. And by wrong, I mean if you want to have a moon base in the future, you don't spend a huge fraction of your gross domestic product and basically have an entire agency build a huge rocket that will just land a couple of guys there for them to walk around for a couple of days and then come back. This is what we call a footprints and flags mission. You go there to show you can do it. And basically, it's because it was a race. It was the space race.
Mhm.
And I've said this many times. What happens at the end of a race? Well, you won, and then you're done. You go home. I'm not going to run it again tomorrow. I did it already. And so they did it. They beat the Soviet Union, came back, and it just wasn't sustainable. And two of the rockets for Apollo 18 and 19 were already being built. You can still see those. One's in Houston, one's in Florida, I believe. There's one of the lunar landers that wasn't used, that sort of thing. And now they're literally collecting dust. If you want to do this, you got to do it right. You got to go there. You got to make it sustainable. You got to understand how to make your own water and make your own air. What are you going to do for food? And back then, that was an unreasonable thing to be able to do. But now we've sent orbiters there to map the place out. We have sent other missions to land there and look around, and they found, for example, that in the North Pole there are these craters that have an interesting feature, and I love the sort of the dichotomy here. These craters are very deep, and since they're at the North Pole of the Moon, the sunlight never reaches into these craters, and so any water that gets in there from a comet or an asteroid impact or something like that stays there. It's so cold it can last there for billions of years. And there may be millions or even billions of tons of ice in the bottoms of these craters that can be used to create, you can melt it for water, electrolyze it for air, and do other things with it like that. You can make fuel out of it too. The other thing is that the tops of these craters, the rims, are up high enough that the sun never sets there. So you can actually set solar panels around these things and have a continuous source of energy. If you try to do this on the lunar equator, you get sunlight for 2 weeks, which is awesome, but then it's nighttime for 2 weeks. So unless you have really good batteries, going to the poles is the place to go. And I think that's a fine idea. It's actually the orbital mechanics makes it difficult to go to the poles of the moon, but we could. And we don't have the rockets necessarily to do that now, but in a few years we will.
And are those rockets going to come from like SpaceX or from within NASA, or are we getting?
I'm glad you asked that, Kiki.
Where are they coming from?
This is where we get into Phil's soapbox ranting, angry old man yells at clouds time.
Yes.
Awesome. We love soapboxes.
Oh my gosh! All right. NASA is a government agency, and that means that every 4 or every 8 years, right, the White House administration changes. Sometimes they carry the mantle of the old administration, sometimes they don't. Congress changes every 2 or every 6 years. And so these winds are blowing in all different directions. And so it's very difficult for NASA to plan for something that's going to take 20 years to do, unless it's something really huge that they can get Congress and the White House on board with. And so basically they've been sort of aimlessly, I don't want to say that so much, but they've been having a hard time finding traction on what their next big thing is going to be. It's going to be an asteroid retrieval mission. It's going to be a replacement for the shuttle. It's going to be going to Mars. And now the next big thing is going to be the Space Launch System, which is a Saturn V scale rocket, which sounds good on paper until you really look at it and you realize they're only going to launch this thing once every 2 years. It can carry a huge amount into orbit or into space. but it's also going to cost like $1 billion per launch or more. And then you realize when you look at NASA's budget, the way it's scaled and everything, this is a rocket that is so expensive and so hard to launch that you can't afford to do anything with it. It's like having a Lamborghini in your garage and you can't afford the gas because you spent 150 grand on your car. I'm not a fan of SLS, and another reason being that when you look at something like SpaceX, which is a private company, SpaceX was able to use the knowledge, the legacy of NASA, the legacy of the Saturn V, everything we've learned in 40 to 50 years of NASA doing this, and build their own rockets. And with help from the government, help from NASA, absolutely, with a lot of their own money, they've been able to make a viable business out of this, launching rockets. The next planned rocket for them is the Falcon Heavy, which does not have the capacity of the Space Launch System. But it costs, at worst, a fifth as much. So you could launch 5 of these things for every SLS you launch. So I don't care if it has half or a quarter of the payload capability. Launch 10 of them. Because honestly, I think when it's all said and done, when NASA's done building the SLS, Falcon Heavy is going to cost a tenth or less of what SLS was. And so you can, if you want to put people on the moon, you can launch 3 habitats, launch 3 huge things of food, and you can launch a Falcon Heavy every couple of months instead of every couple of years. I think that's the way to go.
Right,
So,
and then you have like a constant supply chain. Yeah.
Whenever I hear these numbers, though, they're just ridiculous to me. It would take $1 billion to launch this rocket, which means we could send 2 a day for a year for what we bailed out banks.
Sure.
Right.
Like there's some things that I'm like, well, we could just really be doing this instead of other things that we spend our money on. But to where you started this, Phil, well, it sounds to me what you initiated and how we got to the moon in the first place is we need an arms race. We need to like declare war on China and try to get to the moon and build the moon base before China does, or maybe it's the Russians.
I don't think so. I think point to capitalism. Sell timeshares on the moon.
I don't think that'll get there that quickly.
That's the privatized way.
That might be closer. In fact, Justin, I would say that you are exactly wrong. No offense, but oh my God, are you completely off base there? No, I mean, the space race is what got us into this situation in the first place. We spent a ton of money on these expendable rockets, and we got nothing. I mean, we got a lot out of it, all the technology, all the spin-offs and everything. Some people have estimated anywhere between 3 to 20 times a return on investment for that. So for every dollar we spent on NASA, we got $3 to $20 back on spin-off technology and advancements in computers, engineering, and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But for the purpose of going to the moon, yeah, we went there and came back, and that was it because it was a race. If you want to do it again, it has to be sustainable. It has to be less expensive. You have to do it in such a way that you're not just going to do it to put a couple of folks there for 2 or 3 days, but instead for 6 months or a year at a time, bring them home and replace them, sort of like we do with the space station.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying we should invest in into interplanetary body ballistic missile system on the moon, and this is so that nobody would strike first, because it doesn't matter who got who first or what happened first if they take down the grid. You're going to launch the nukes from the moon, and therefore nobody should ever mess with you. It's a horrible idea, terrible idea.
It's also illegal.
Yeah, and before you know it, there'll be a big
on the moon,
CHA
who says
on the moon.
what's illegal?
Yeah, the Outer Space Treaty, which has been signed by Russia and the United States and a few other countries, actually, I think it would prevent that. I'd have to look at it carefully. You're not allowed to blow up weapons in space, but I also don't think you're allowed to actually have.
But if you wait till they come back down to
an orbiting platform anyway, then instead of 250,000 miles away, it's only 250 miles away. So it's much faster and cheaper to get them there. But the point you're making, if I back away from the specifics and go to the generals and what Blair was saying, yeah, make the moon a place to go, make it a destination hotspot. Once you're going there and you're creating energy, for example, or you're mining titanium or something else there that we need on Earth, once you're there, it becomes less expensive to do it. Now, I'm not saying it's sustainable. I'm not saying this is a sound economic project. I'm saying like in 50 or 60 or 70 years, maybe. But for right now, um, NASA could do this, and to say and go back to again to your point, Justin, about the money. People say, "Oh my gosh, it costs $1 billion, $2 billion for a rover on Mars and all that." And I'm thinking that's peanuts.
Yeah.
We spend five times as much money in this country on tobacco products than we do on NASA. NASA's budget is roughly 18 to 19 billion dollars. It fluctuates every year.
Stop spending money on pet food.
Funding for what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and the military budget's hundreds of times that for a plane that can't fly in the rain. But here's the thing. Here's one of these things that I always like. Whenever I see it in science fiction, I'm like, I don't think it works this way. They're out and they're all the way in deep space mining asteroids, or they're mining some distant planet body for some reason. It's a mining planet. All they do is mine on this planet. And then I kind of go like, well, but the stuff that makes up the universe is kind of everywhere. Like, do you really have to go to an asteroid to mine it? And there could be, and this is the question: is there anything on the moon that is so rare on Earth, but so available on the moon that it would be worth mining and sending back to us?
That's a tough question to answer, mostly because I don't know. But I can extrapolate that to asteroids and say, in fact, if you are already in space, if you already have that infrastructure, mining asteroids in many ways is much easier than mining metals on the Earth. To answer your question, yes, this stuff is everywhere, but not in equal amounts. An asteroid could be made of mostly iron. It could be basically a solid chunk of metal, mostly iron, lots of nickel. Nickel is not too hard to mine on Earth. There are places in Canada where there are nickel mines from asteroid impacts. But there's also rare earth elements that would be much easier to extract from an asteroid than they would be here on Earth. But that presumes that you're already in space and able to do this. The sort of snake eating its own tail, or maybe better, lifting yourself by your own bootstraps would be a better analogy, is that asteroids make it easier to colonize space because asteroids have water on them, a lot of it actually. And you can tap that water, again, to make fuel and air and drinkable water. You bring your own food. If you can figure out a way of growing food on these things, that becomes your way station to create fuel and the volatiles, the stuff you need. And then basically you bottle that stuff. You literally put it in tanks, and you put these things in orbit around the Earth, or you put them halfway between the Earth and Mars on orbits that keep them in a way that rockets to Mars, for example, or other places can match their velocity and then use up their fuel, use up whatever their stuff is, and keep going. That way, you don't have to bring everything with you. It's like the 7-Eleven of cross-country trips. It's like, I really need a 400-year-old hot dog. It's like, oh well, there's one. Those guys back in 2072, they stuffed one of those tanks full of hot dogs. We can stop there. That went from a joke to an actual literal 400-year-old hot dog joke.
It did.
But that's
fantastic.
Yeah. You see that? I'm actually pretty good at this. And so I think that this is all the beauty of this. And Justin, you said you read about this in science fiction. The beauty about this is that science fiction is science fact now, or in the future, depending on which way you're starting. Science fiction now is science fact in the future. We can do this stuff. NASA is, if we gave NASA $5 billion more bucks a year, and make no mistake, that money can be found. We waste way more money than that in the government, and yet Congress is constantly harping on wasted money, and yet they're doing all their own pet projects. NASA could easily be doing a lot more stuff with a little bit more money. They're making subsistence wages now. Anything else they make would be gravy, and they could do tons of stuff.
Yeah, and right now, like we just got Juno to Jupiter, and New Horizons is maybe going to continue on into the outer solar system to try and find some other bodies out beyond Pluto. But we don't really have any big missions planned in the near future. We've got the James Webb Space Telescope that's going to be launched sometime like 2017, 2018.
Something like that. I think 2018.
2018. So
it's only been delayed 9 years.
Yeah, that's a big
cost 10
project.
times the original budget.
Yeah. Do you think it's
that is a big project? That's the successor to Hubble.
Exactly.
And it's a gigantic telescope that's going to it's going to be as big of a leap forward as Hubble was in its day. That's a big project. There are a couple of other things like a mission to Europa, Jupiter's moon, which we know has water under the surface. But that's not being built right now. That's still in the very early stages of just thinking about it. There are no really big missions to the outer planets going on. I mean, Cassini, which has been orbiting Saturn now for 12 years, I think, that's shutting down next year. Juno is only going to orbit Jupiter for less than a year, I think.
Yeah.
New Horizons is going to pass by a couple of objects, or at least one object, in 2019, and if it gets a mission extension, that'd be great. But yeah, there's not a lot being planned right now. Most of it is Mars and stuff orbiting the Earth. I would like to see us pushing to go back to the moon. I think we should go back to the moon before Mars. I don't think we're ready to go to Mars. Just the fact that it takes 6 months to go there is a big deal. We can go to the moon in a few days. That significantly reduces the dangers of this journey. And it's just NASA needs a big project, and I think they're hitching their wagon to the wrong star. And in this case, it's the wrong wagon. I think SLS is the wrong way to go. And again, and all of this stuff, everything we've been talking about kind of wraps together into this thing. They need more money, they need a better direction, they need to do this cheaper, and they need a vision. And that's the problem. They have this journey to Mars vision right now. But if you were waking me up in the middle of the night and say, "What do you think about it?" I'd say, "I don't think it's the right thing to do. I think we should be going to the moon first."
Well, because, like you said, if we can create a base on the moon, then that can be a base of operations. We can launch more easily from the moon to go to Mars.
That's right.
Once we're there. So it's like once you get into space and set a foothold, then that'll make it easier to go other places.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, but beyond that, so you used to work with Hubble. I know that a part of your work was with Hubble. And Hubble is still going. What are you excited about recently? Are you excited about anything that Hubble's been focusing on? I mean, it keeps looking at the sky.
Specifically with Hubble, I mean, Hubble is what they call a service observatory. Basically, it's been opened to the astronomical community to just observe whatever it can. It's got a bunch of different cameras on the back end of it that look in the ultraviolet and the infrared and the visible, and they do different things. It's like a shed with a bunch of different tools in it. And so there's all kinds of things you can do with this. And after it had done a lot of its key projects that it was built to do, they started taking more chances with it, doing weirder projects, like the Hubble Deep Field, which was originally done in the 90s, was basically this ridiculous idea of just pointing it for 2 weeks at a blank spot in the sky and seeing what they saw. And what they saw were tens of thousands of galaxies. So they did it again and again and again. There was the extreme deep field and the ultra deep field, and they did it in the southern sky. And I think these kinds of things are really cool, and now they're coupling it with other big telescopes like Chandra, which is an X-ray observatory, and a few others, and getting multi-wavelength observations of single patches of the sky. And when you do that, you learn much more about these galaxies. You can get a better idea of their distances, of how much they're actively forming stars, and we're surveying the universe this way. And besides all the science you get out of that you're sort of expecting, it's like, well, we expect to get distances to galaxies, and we expect to get their star formation rate and all that stuff. You also find other stuff. It's like, there's this object in this field. It's like, well, what is this? I don't know. Let's find out. That happens all the time. The beauty of these observatories, especially ones that can look at either wide areas of the sky and see lots of stuff, or like Hubble, see very small areas of the sky but very deep, get very faint objects in it, is that you don't know what you're going to find. And every time we do that, I was writing something, actually it'll go up tomorrow, about a really bizarre binary star that we've known about for decades, but it had kind of weird fluctuations in its light. And when they looked at it, they realized that it's a white dwarf, a dense star, basically shooting out a beam of electrons at nearly the speed of light, which is slamming into its companion star and creating all kinds of crazy stuff going on in its atmosphere. And we've known about this thing for like 40 years, but we didn't know it was doing that until somebody kind of looked at the data and went, oh. And they used Hubble, actually, in the ultraviolet to look at this and figure out what was going on with it. And I love that kind of thing. It's like, we don't know everything that's out there. There's a lot of weird stuff. And now that we're surveying the sky and seeing millions and billions of objects, 1 in a million type objects are starting to turn up.
Yeah, and we need to keep our eye on the sky and keep looking and trying to refine our view, increase our resolution, get deeper and closer magnification just to be able to find them.
And
We
more
have to get
wavelengths, X-ray, gamma ray, radio, all that stuff. Every time we do that, we find that there's a new window to the universe that we did not know even existed, and that's fantastic.
So I have a question about just more philosophical, I guess. Light pollution. I know. Light pollution here on Earth is causing some big problems for people being able to see the sky at night. And as more and more people move away from rural areas and into urban centers, the majority of the human population is going to be in brighter and brighter areas with less and less of a view of the universe. How do you think this is going to affect humanity's, sense of self in space?
That's an interesting question. It's hard to say. If you're missing something that you've never known, how do you know you're missing it, right? There are many times when I've gone out to very dark spots, and you walk outside at night, and it's unbelievable how many stars you see if you're not used to that. And I could tell you story after story of people who have lived their whole lives in the suburbs of a city where they can see a reasonable number of stars. There's Orion and Sagittarius and the Big Dipper, and you can spot these things. And then they go out to a truly dark site for the first time, and their jaw hangs open. And these are people who are not necessarily science aficionados. They're not astronomers. They're just folks, and they happen to be out in this spot, and they see that, and it's amazing.
Yeah, how did the ancient man even come up with constellations? There's everywhere you look, there's another star. You could have drawn one.
Well, you pick the brightest ones, and you say that one looks like a fish. Except it really doesn't.
Did they have light pollution? I mean,
what were they on?
It's like a rubric test. You could basically draw anything you want with the connected dot. There's so many.
I have a friend, an astronomer, who always points out, oh, there's the triangle, and there's another triangle, and he
everywhere triangles. Oh my goodness.
But in fact, it's so amazing to see that for the first time that it's almost kind of cool that we have places where people can't see the night sky, because then when they do see it, it's like it blows their brains apart. They have a new appreciation for the night sky. But I don't want to do that, because it's not like I want to deprive everybody of this. I think if everybody had that night sky, it would be a lot better.
I think
but then we also have though that deep space array where you can even though you can look up in the sky and see maybe 2 stars because of all your light pollution, on your computer screen you can pull up galaxies that are 1 billion light years away.
But it's on a computer screen as opposed to going outside and actually looking up and seeing the sky. This is a world
where people live in the digital world.
Okay, I have an idea that's kind of a medium between those two things. So I grew up in San Francisco, and so I saw some stars, but never very many. And then when I went to college at Sonoma State, I found out that they had an old school star projector at Santa Rosa Junior College, and they had free planetarium shows. Yeah.
I didn't know that. I worked there for 7 years.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that. But so I used to go to every Wednesday. They had a free planetarium show at the Santa Rosa Junior College with an actual star projector, and it wasn't a set show. Somebody just projected the night sky and talked us through what we saw, and it completely opened my eyes to the world out there, and it was such a cool experience. And there are less and less star projectors out there because everyone's moving to these video camera projectors for planetariums now, and it's a very different experience. And that at least was something that I wish we would move closer to as well, is just here's the night sky.
That's a good point, and I think people live in the digital world, except they don't really. I mean, you have to eat, you have to go out and do things, and I can show you a picture. I'm trying to think of how risque I want to get here, but there are a lot of things you can do online that aren't as good as they are in real life. I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And it is, there is something about seeing the stars for yourselves. I mean, look, I don't know how many people I have done this with, where you see that they go outside and they look through a telescope and they see Saturn for their own eye through the eyepiece with their own eyes for the first time. And I can show you pictures of this from Cassini that are high resolution, color balanced, gorgeous, jaw-dropping pictures. And when you look through a telescope and you see this little tiny, but maybe a little fuzzy, but this little planet with the rings around it doesn't look nearly as cool as Saturn through Cassini on your computer. But that light, I can say that light in the sky, that Saturn, that light traveled for an hour to get to your telescope and then go into your brain through your eyeball. And to see people's face when that happens, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen this. It's like suddenly they've discovered the third dimension when they've been living in flatland their whole life.
I totally agree with you. I got to do this with my son, where we found Jupiter through a telescope, and there was a whole mess of fumbling around just to find it, get it, capture it, have it in the frame for him to look at it, and then as he's looking at it, it leaves. So you have to explain. We're on a planet spinning. It's in an orbit of its own. It's going to keep. We got to track this thing because it's an actual planet way out there that we're looking at through this very small lens. Which absolutely way more impressive than me pulling up a picture of the planet on the web and being like, look, there's a planet. Oh, that's great.
I think that's something that everybody who's able to should get a chance to do in their life. If you have good enough vision and you have the means to be able to get to a dark site and see the sky minus light pollution, and to see Saturn through a telescope even just once, because it is a profound experience. I'm not saying it's going to change everybody's life the way it did mine, but that's what made me become an astronomer, was seeing Saturn when I was 5 or 6 years old through a telescope. And when you ask any astronomer, and most astronauts, if you ask them what happened to you that made you want to do this, they'll say it was seeing the Apollo missions, or for those around my age, or because somebody showed them the moon or Saturn through a telescope, or Jupiter's moons, something like that. That it can change a life.
Yeah. Wow. Final question. How are the goats?
What?
How are your goats?
How are my goats?
You have goats?
I kid. No, I don't kid. You kid.
They don't, because they're neutered. Yeah, I have 4 little tiny adorable goats, 2 pygmy goats and 2 dwarf.
Did you see Blair right now? She's gonna die. She's like,
really?
Goats
You my goats?
Greatest.
I can talk and probably pick up. Let me just as I'm talking here, I'll just go to my pictures. Yeah, we have basically we live out in the country here and out in the burbs, and we wanted to get some sort of animal that lives outside. We have a couple of dogs and a cat and all that, but we decided we were watching goat videos because goats are just so flippin' adorable that we decided to get some goats for ourselves. There we go. Let's see here. Hang on. Screen share. This one. There you go. That's my derp goat picture. That's Clay. So we have Dr. Clayton Forrester, named after the Mystery Science Theater character.
Oh, nice.
Jack Burton from Big Trouble in Little China. Sam from one of the police procedurals. I can never remember which one. And who am I forgetting? Batman, because he's all black, so he's the goat of the night.
Oh my gosh, goats are amazing. They are so smart. They're like the easiest to train. Oh my god.
Yeah, they're fun. We cut grass for them and feed them that, and they're fun to play with. I sit out with them. I was having kind of a rough day today, and I went out and sat and fed them sliced up apple bits and leaves and stuff, and hung out with them for 20 minutes. It's pretty good. Goat therapy is pretty good, except they're really belchy and farty. So you have to.
That is true.
Yeah.
Do you find there was a study out last week about how goats they make eye contact if they want something from you.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
tweeted me about that. Yeah.
yeah, it's mostly probably food, like you mentioned in your comment in return. But I mean, do you find the goats when they want you to open a gate, or they need help doing something, or they want food? They're looking at you? Are they making the eye contact?
Yeah, they do look right at you. You know, a lot of animals do that. And then basically, if I have something they want, they just start jumping on me, which is super irritating. They're really good jumpers. And it's funny because when they run, they are not the most graceful of God's creatures. They look like I don't know. They just look like a steampunk machine with things going in every direction. But they're really good jumpers. And yeah, they'll look right at you. Three of them we didn't raise from babies, but one of them we actually, because of the way the timing worked out, he wasn't quite ready to be weaned from his mom, so we wound up goat feeding him. We wound up bottle feeding him with goat milk, and he's the cuddliest of the four. And
Of
so after
course.
he's, in the afternoon, it gets just brutally hot here because of climate change, and it's been everywhere in this country. But we made a little shade tarp for them, so there's a little bit of shade. And after their afternoon snack, Clayton is the one who will just kind of stand there, and he's just waiting for me to start petting him.
Oh
And
my goodness.
he'll just stand there, and I'll just scratch him until I have to go.
I'm gonna have to go
kind of
cuddle
amazing.
the goats tomorrow. You got me all excited for goat time.
Yeah, we have friends who come here if they're in town. A couple of friends were just in Denver, and they came up specifically to see the goats. And yeah, they don't run around as much as baby goats do, but they're still pretty fun to just hang out and look at. Because they're goats, they're cute.
Goats are wonderful, and you can make goat puns and goat jokes and enjoy the goats.
I've heard them all.
I'm sure you have at this point. Absolutely. What are you working on? What are you working on right now? Anything that we should be excited about for future? You're working on the Slate blog continually.
Yeah, the last thing I did was Crash Course Astronomy
Yes.
with Hank Green and those folks, and that was
Nice.
tremendously fun. The last one of those went up in January, and I actually just checked. They've had 19 million combined views, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Congratulations.
It's kind of a ridiculous number of views. And I've been kind of aimlessly looking for something new myself. Past couple of months, it's taken me a long time to get my feet back under me. I've got some ideas. They're nothing I can really talk about because they're all sort of percolating.
Yep.
I might be able to talk about one thing soon. I'm in negotiations with something now, but that's probably all I can say. And hopefully, if that works out, that'll be a lot of fun. Believe me, as soon as I have anything, yeah, I'll be talking about it.
Awesome.
I mean, the beauty of science communication is you kind of want to talk about the stuff you're doing. So I'll have more things coming up pretty soon.
Nice. Awesome. And for people out there who might not have heard of you before, where can they find you?
Sure. The best way to find me is actually on about.me/PhilPlait. I've got my Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram centralized there. But basically, if you look up, Instagram Bad Astronomer, Facebook Bad Astronomer, Twitter I'm Bad Astronomer, you'll find me. And basically, Instagram is nothing but cloud pictures. Oh, there you go. Thank you. It's pictures of interesting clouds and goats, because that's kind of the stuff I do.
That's fantastic. Clouds and goats. There we go. Oh, and Star Trek models.
Oh yeah, and the Enterprise, which I was just
Enterprise.
in. That's at the National Air and Space Museum.
Oh yeah, they just got that though, right?
Yeah, I was there last year when they were still reconstructing it and conserving it, and I got to see it in pieces, which was amazing.
Oh, wow.
And then I was at the National Air and Space Museum just a couple of weeks ago for their 40th anniversary. Actually, I guess it was about a month ago now. And yeah, I got to see it all done up and pretty, and oh my, my heart was in my throat looking at it. It is gorgeous.
So
We're
many
off.
goat pictures.
Yeah, I try to put up videos too. I actually got a video of Clayton headbutting Jack, and Jack makes these little kid noises, like and he kind of went, what? Oh, there you go.
That's a lot of goat chewing noises.
Yeah, I was feeding them apple slices, and they I had to wear gloves because they nip at me when they're excited.
Oh my god, they're amazing.
But getting actually Jack to make that what noise just slayed me. I put that one up on Instagram a couple of days ago. They're basically endless fun.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're having fun with your goats and enjoying their company, and that's just wonderful. And I'm glad that you're still writing about science and that you have projects that we will be excited to hear about very soon. And
Thanks.
thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for doing what you do, and thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. Oh, and you know what? Since you're in San Francisco,
I'm in Portland now.
Oh wait, you moved to Portland.
I'm in San Francisco.
Blair's in San Francisco. There we go.
Yeah, because I saw you at the Bad Ad Hypothesis Fest, BAFest, Zach Wienersmith's made-up science nonsense contest. What was that, last year?
Yeah.
And I'm scheduled to do that again this year. I was going to say I hope to see you there.
Oh, cool.
That's part of the Bay Area Science Festival, and that's going to be
the Bay Area Science Festival. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and that's going to be at the Castro Theater, which is great. Last year, or when I was there, I guess it was a year and a half ago now, Matt Inman did the sort of the plenary talk, and he introduced Gibbers the lobster.
Gibbers craps. And
My
it
God,
was one of
funny.
the funniest presentations I have ever seen.
Matt Inman, who draws the oatmeal. So, so Zach Wienersmith, who does Saturday morning breakfast cereal, of course, knows all the big cartoonists, and he had Matt come in and do the talk, and oh my God, I was everything I could do not to be just like in tears on stage. But then I had to judge the contestants. It was a lot of fun. So if you're in the San Francisco area, that's October. Oh, when is it?
It's the end of October, isn't it? The last
October
week.
It's always the last week of October.
Fest, BAH Fest.
BAH Fest. It was fun when I saw it. You guys put on a great show that night,
Yeah, that was a fun night.
Yeah, it was fun. If I'm in town, I will definitely be checking that out.
Yeah, I haven't seen you in a couple of years. It'd be nice to get together again, hang out.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Film a failed Skeptics pilot and let's see what else we can do.
Yeah, see what else we can do. There we go.
That's an inside joke. That's how we met, wasn't it? Filming a TV pilot that never got anywhere.
Yeah, I think that is where we met.
That was so long ago. Oh my gosh.
Well, I just looked up on your Wikipedia when you were at Sonoma State, and we overlapped 2 years.
Oh my gosh, that was you?
That was you.
Yeah, that's where I saw you before.
Yeah, I was one of those 7,000 students just walking around.
Did you ever see some old white dork on a Razor scooter going across campus? Because that would have been me.
Let's see, I was a biology major, so...
Well, I was in the science building quite a bit till we moved off to the side, but I had to park like a quarter of a mile away from the building, and it's just a boring walk, so I actually took my daughter's scooter
that is hilarious.
And used that, and I actually bit the pavement once. That was awesome.
Sure.
That must have been hilarious for anybody seeing it. Yeah, memories.
Memories. All right, you guys, we have gone on and on, so
just
why
edit
don't
all my parts, it'll be fine.
We can keep going. We just got to get it to the after show.
Yeah, I think we have more science stories. Maybe we'll put them in the after show. Maybe we will save them for next week. But I think we're going to call it for this episode of This Week in Science. Phil, once again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been awesome. You can stick around for the after show if you would like. Right now, I would like to say thank you to all of our Patreon sponsors. It is time for me to thank those of you who have taken the time to click that Patreon link and donate to us. Thank you to... Let's see if I can see all the names. Chris Clark.
This is always my favorite rap song.
Ready?
/acceptance speech /State of the Union. Right here. Is Kiki runs this down like a master MC.
Justin's trying to stall as long as possible.
Thank you to Chris Clark, Paul Disney, Richard Onemus, John Ratnaswamy, Byron Lee, E.O., Jared Lysette, Ulysses Adkins, Dave Friedel, Kevin Parachan, Keith Corsell, Jake Jones, Mark Mazzaros, Trainer 84, Vardis Roomkiss, Brian Hedrick, Cassie Lester, Patrick Cohn, Sarah Chavez, Layla, Bob Calder, Marshall Clark, Charlene Henry, Don Kamarechka, Larry Garcia, Randy Mazuka, Ed Dyer, Tony Steele, Steve DeBell, Haroon Sarang, Melissa Mosley, Jesse Moreno, Jason Schneiderman, Rudy Garcia, Gerald Sorrells, Greg Guthman, Alex Wilson, Dave Neighbor, Jason Dozier, Matthew Litwin, Eric Knapp, Jason Roberts, Craig Landon, Daryl Lambert, Dave Wiley, Robert Aston, Orly Radio, Nathan Greco, Hexator, Deborah Smith, Mitch Neves, Flying Out, John Crocker, Richard Porter, Christopher Dreyer, Mark, Sylvan Westby, Artyom, Pixelfly, Shiwata, Stephen B., Dave Wilkinson, Steve Mashinsky, Rodney Lewis, Braxton Howard, Phil Nadeau, Rick Ramus, Salgood Sam, Matt Sutter, Emma Grenier, Philip Shane, James Dobson, Kurt Larson, Stefan Insom, Michael George, Russell Jensen, Mountain Sloth, Jim DePoe, Tara Payne, John Maloney, Jason Olds, James Paul West, Alec Doty, Illuma Lama, Joe Wheeler, Dougal Campbell, Craig Porter, Adam Mishkan, Aaron Luthen, Marjorie, Paul Stanton, David Simley, Tyler Harrison, Ben Rothid, Columbo Ahmed, Gary Swinsberg, and Brian Condren. Thank you for all your support on Patreon. If you're interested in supporting us, you can find information at patreon.com/thisweekinscience. Also remember that you can help us out simply by telling your friends about TWIS. On next week's show, once again, we're going to be broadcasting live online at 8 p.m. Pacific time on TWIS.org. TWIS.org/live, where you can watch and you can join our chat room, talk to other people who are watching the show, talk to us. But don't worry if you can't make it. You can find our past episodes at TWIS.org/YouTube or just TWIS.org.
Thank you for enjoying the show. TWIS is, of course, also available as a podcast. You can look for us on the iTunes directory under This Week in Science, or if you have a mobile-type device. We are TWIS for Droid on the Android mobile device, and simply This Week in Science in anything Apple Marketplacey, and we're probably not on the Windows phone, so get rid of it. I don't know anything about it.
No Razor phones either, not on that. For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website. That's at www.twis.org. There you can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts as well as other listeners.
Yeah, or you can just hit us up directly, email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIScience, at Dr. Kiki, at JacksonFly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes to you in the night, please let us know.
We'll be back here next week, and we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you've learned anything from today's show, remember,
it's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world, so I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice, show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand, and all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way, so everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just yet understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma gondii. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address. From stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say, and if you've learned anything from the words that we've said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
Oh, stop. I hit the stop button. I did it. And now you have joined the post-show show. It's the after show of the show where we do things that don't go in the show. Although it's still the show. Kind of. We're here. Dave Friedel, welcome.
Hello.
To Hangout. Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. That's great.
Cool.
Dave, you've been to a conference on world affairs? Did you meet Phil ever at CWA?
I did not. No, I didn't. But it was really cool to see him tonight.
I haven't been in a while. It's too hard to park and actually get in to see any of the speakers anymore.
Yeah, and now you're close to Boulder, right, Phil? So you're technically not allowed to be in it anymore.
Yeah, Coloradoans aren't allowed to actually go.
Is that
or
right?
at least they can't be speakers.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, not allowed to be on a panel.
Yeah.
I do have to go, unfortunately, because I have to go to bed. But,
it is getting those later hours. Yes.
Weirdly, I mean, as we're wrapping up the show, and I thought, I'll check Twitter, see if anybody's saying anything. Twitter is exploding with a large meteor-like event over western U.S., including Colorado. Dang it, if I'd been outside, I would have seen it maybe, although it's pretty cloudy.
Sorry.
There's actually a fire to the northwest, so I probably wouldn't have been able to see it because the smoke is covering everything. But it was seen over Utah and L.A. as well. Now, no meteor can actually do that. Meteors burn up very rapidly, and they're not seen over that many states. And I just saw a video of it. It's moving very slowly and breaking apart. So this is very clearly human-made space debris. Probably a rocket booster, a satellite. I don't know if anything from the space station was recently let go, although that stuff usually burns up over the Pacific, not always. But if you go to my Twitter feed, go to Bad Astronomer on Twitter, I just retweeted the video. It's pretty dramatic, and I'm seeing lots of news stations and everything asking that guy if they can use his video. It's really pretty cool.
I wonder. I know there's been talk of the Chinese space station. Do you think it's big enough to be possibly the Chinese space station breaking up?
I don't think so. If that were predicted to re-enter that quickly, I think I would have heard something.
Yeah.
I know that they lost contact with it, but they're playing it pretty close to the vest, and so I'm not sure exactly what's going on with that. It's due to re-enter, and they probably won't be able to control it. Given the size of Tiangong, I'd have to think it would. This isn't it. This is something smaller,
Yeah.
but I don't know. The video. There you go. Yeah, it's hard to tell from this, but this is very typical of a human-made object coming in. It's moving too slowly. Orbital speed is 5 miles per second, something like that. Meteors come in at 3 or 4 or 10 times that fast. That's why they zip across the sky really quickly. Something moving this slowly has got to be coming in from orbit. And the fact that it's breaking up is because it's not a single chunk of rock. It's a big metal thing that with pieces falling off. If you watch the movie Gravity, at the end of that, when she comes back in and you see the debris from her re-entry vehicle breaking up, that was beautifully done. It's just like that. So I don't know exactly what this is, but I expect when I wake up in the morning, people will have identified it. I'm getting tons of people on Twitter pinging me about it.
Yeah, everybody's like, Phil, have you seen this? This is right up your alley.
They've got an ID on it.
Replay
Let me
this?
look this up. Hang on, CZ7RB.
Wait, replay this? I think I saw this. Was this like 3 nights ago or something?
No, this is like right
just
now.
now.
Oh. I saw
Just
something very similar to that recently that looked like, kind of looked like fireworks. Those things were lighting up as it came up. This was in the Davis area. Well, I'm looking up at the night sky, calling it the Davis area. It could have been over freaking
Here we go.
Nebraska, for all I really know.
It says it re-entered latitude 7, longitude 81. No, that's like over the Atlantic. Latitude 25, longitude. Dang it, I don't know. It doesn't look to be like that's what CZ7RB, rocket booster, I guess is what that means. So yeah, I don't know what this thing
rocket
is.
booster,
Pretty
yeah.
cool.
Huh.
All right, well, I have to run. I apologize.
No worries. I'm so glad that you stayed with us so late and that.
Thank you so much for inviting me. That was so nice of you.
Very fun hangout.
It's so great to talk to you again. I missed you.
Wonderful. I miss you too. It's so good to see you. Yeah. Well, maybe we can get you back on TWIS again sometime soon, and then we can have more fun chats.
The goats.
And
Don't take Blair. She clearly is not into it.
clearly not into the goats, right?
Did someone say goats?
Right. Oh, Blair, you've got to be kidding me.
Oh, Totes.
Oh, no.
Totes excited for the goats.
Totes.
Yeah, totes and the goats. Say that all the
Totes
time.
and the goats.
Yeah, totes and the
And
goats.
you, really, you can say that.
Yeah.
Because you
all
could be
four.
talking
Totes.
about all your goats.
Totes the
and
goats.
All right, I gotta run. Thanks, everybody. Justin,
Have
Blair.
a great night's
Good to
sleep.
see you, Dave. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Phil is so great.
That was fun.
Yeah. So we get to hang out with Dave for a little while here as, doing
I don't have
some-
any goats. No goats.
So, okay, Dave, now we've heard a little bit from Blair and you poking in the chat room about the fact that you met in Colorado and did some stuff. I'd like to hear from you your experience of meeting Blair and going to tour the tea factory.
That's right. We went to the Celestial Seasonings factory, and that was literally there's not a lot of time when somebody's just stopping over, and
Right.
unfortunately, Denver's airport is about 40 miles away from everything. So you either have to go to Boulder or you have to go to downtown Denver. Or you have to go to Golden. And that's pretty much your options in like 6 hours. So I was like, well, I've never been to this Celestial Seasonings tea place, and it's outside of Boulder, which I didn't really know. So I was like, is she gonna be creeped out that we're like driving into like farms and down somebody's street, and it was in this odd location. But the thing I really remember about it was the mint room. That was the coolest room in the
Literally
whole building.
cool, like cool mint.
Like literally, they put all the mint tea in one room, concrete room with a garage door, and then they let you walk inside of it, and it's like you're totally high on mint. It's so
I bet the whole room smells like a pack of gum.
It's assaulting to the senses.
Wow.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
It was assaulting. You felt like you were going to pass out, and they kind of ran everybody through there.
Yeah.
And then there were robots. They had robots.
Yeah, that was my favorite part, the packaging robots. And then that they have this patented tea bag. So the Celestial Seasonings tea bags, don't have a staple in them. So they use some sort of, what was it, all natural glue that through a fast heating process seals the bags.
Yeah, they had some cool manufacturing equipment there. That was pretty typical production line where it looked like it was good 30, 40-year-old equipment that was doing this heat sealing, like they had been using it for a very long time. But then suddenly there's a robot packaging it, stacking everything up. Like they used a robot to pack skids, so the robot was just kind of like going back and forth, and there's people whizzing by and driving by. You really walk right through the middle of the plant, which was pretty cool.
And the tour guide used a lot of tea puns. Safety was their priority.
Safety first.
Safety was their priority.
And guess what my signed calendar says on? It said I had a terrific time.
Oh no, Blair.
Of course.
I had to.
Oh, Blair, that's fantastic.
So I'm afraid she didn't get to see very much of Denver. It was sort of like drive to Boulder, get something to eat, and go to the tea factory. But at least she got to see like the Flatirons quickly as we drove by them.
Yeah, no, that was great. I got to watch out the window. That was really nice.
I tried to run away to Boulder when I was 17.
How far did you make it?
To Boulder.
Beautiful.
I made it to Boulder, and my goal was I was gonna go enroll myself in the Naropa Institute, Jack Kerouac's School for Disembodied Poets. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna hang out with a bunch of other poets and write poetry all day and drink wine and get into weird philosophical arguments and have a blast. But the tuition was like $10,000 a semester or something ridiculous. I was like, oh, it's the Naropa Institute, Jack Kerouac School for Disembodied Poets who have a trust fund.
Right.
I'm gonna keep rolling.
I'm gonna keep rolling.
I'm gonna keep rolling. I have to hit the road and have adventures, which I did.
Yeah, Boulder's a place for trust. We call them trustafarians.
Oh yeah,
So it's all the kids that are.
Which honestly, some of my favorite people.
Yeah, as long as they buy the drinks, right?
Well, no, I mean look. I mean, I can't begrudge people who are living the life I would be living if it wasn't for money. Like you have to respect that they have the resources to do with whatever they would like, and they've chosen something that I think is pretty awesome. So
yeah.
And they provide the money to have really good food in the area, so that's a big plus.
Yeah.
Boulder has great food.
Yeah, we got to see it quickly, but it was good. I remember meeting you, Dr. Kiki, in 2010, I think it was.
Oh, it's a while ago now.
That was pre-Kai, and
Yes.
and I had just moved out here. I only lived out here for a month.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yep. I moved here from the Boston area, and I didn't even have a job yet. So I was like, well, looking for a job. It was 2010, so there were no jobs. And so I was like, why don't I just spend the whole week at this conference on world affairs? And I think I found out through it, about through your show, and just kind of spent the whole week going to different conferences. And I got to meet the coolest thing, besides from meeting you, was I got to meet Seth Shostak from.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He goes to CWA. I think every year. It's a big thing for him.
Yeah, and he spent time. It was just amazing to me how much time he spent. He just hung
Seth
out.
is insanely accessible, and I always love listening to Seth because of the fact that he works with SETI and is the person who will crush every hope you have of us ever encountering life from another planet. Right? Like when he breaks down just like how tiny a glimpse or how tiny a radius of even our radar going out, let alone what we could have back to planets that could potentially be civilized enough to hear or resend a message, and then the whole time issue of, well, yeah, we went from nothing to horse and wagon to satellite in 100 years or less, and then we'll be lucky to be around 200 years from now. Like, oh, okay, I gotcha. So there's like this window of noise, and oh yeah, we had all that radar, but now we discovered digital, so we're going quiet again, and could probably destroy ourselves within the next 100 years. So thanks, Seth. Thanks a lot for. But really, it's amazing. It's almost like having a skeptic of the possibility of ever contacting the life from another planet, being one of the guys in charge of trying to hear those signals and send those signals, really must refine the tools that they're using to listen and send, because it's there are no assumptions. There's no glossy assumptions that Seth makes about that contact.
Yeah, he also had very good comparisons of how much the entire SETI budget was to other government things. That's what I remember. He'd be like, it was some ridiculous thing, like the wheel on the B-52 bomber costs as much as our building, and stuff like that. It was like, just kind of went, oh, wow, we really don't spend a lot of money looking for a life on other worlds.
And it's not that we don't spend money on that. It's that we spend that much more on the wheel for a bomb. I mean, the United States spends more than all the rest of the country's military budgets combined, and most of those budgets combined are allies. So it's like, what are we really doing with that money? And it is always ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, if Trump gets elected, it's going to be, making friends with Putin, maybe settling his debts. I don't know.
I think that meteor was actually the 2016 election. That's right. That is what's falling from.
Can somebody play that again? Because I swear to you, I saw this in the last week. I was driving. This would have been, probably Monday or Tuesday night. I mean, it was recent.
Oh yeah, interesting. It could also, instead of being the 2016 election, it could also be all of the Russian Olympic team.
Oh. Svidanya.
Yeah, that's like kind of like what I saw. It looked like a fire, like a messy. It wasn't like one bright spot coming across.
It was messy like that, huh?
Yeah, and it had that look of being one of those like sparkly fireworks as it went across.
So it might have been. I don't know. There's probably a website that tells what has fallen. Right? I don't know this website, but I'm sure there is one.
It was Ted Cruz's career. That's what it was. After his speech the other night.
Well, okay, so yeah. I think Ted Cruz did the right thing.
Bitter much though?
No. Now listen, I think Ted Cruz did, in a way, the right thing, and that he can see the writing on the wall. This is going to be a loser campaign. And if he can be just like, that's his shtick, is like, I'm against the thing I'm against, and I'm staying against it till it makes no sense to be against it, but I'll still be against it. And this has been his appeal to some portion of the party base. So he'll continue to get his support. And it feeds into my whole political theory of the Republicans having sort of given up on the national, and it's all about local elections. So that will play very well for Ted Cruz come his next local election. And that's the only thing that can or will matter to them. The national game is lost. The national direction of the United States has moved so far away from anything that's even being proposed by the Republican Party. But all that insanity that you're like, how can somebody get elected saying these ridiculous things works really well at home, which is why you're going to continue to have a lot of congressional and Senate seats held by Republicans.
You know, the other thing I learned while Blair was here was just how much she isn't interested in politics. That was the other thing I got to learn. Because
So
I remember,
Blair's like, what?
I remember at one point asking her.
She's just polite.
I remember asking her about something. It was something like, you know, somebody that was in the primaries, and she goes, "Yeah, isn't that so and so?" And the person had quit the race like 2 months before, and it was like.
This is the part of the election that I find really boring, though, because this is where I really like it when first a bunch of people are kind of battling out to figure out who's going to be the candidate, right? So then there's a pretty diverse background. Well, diverse. There's a range.
A lot of white people.
Yeah. I just mean there's a range of perspectives
range
within
hair color.
Hold on.
The white people.
Range of perspectives within a party on within debates, like the debates that have multiple, like a bunch of people at them. I find that very interesting. It's when it's down to this like mudslinging contest that I start to lose interest.
So and I was of course a huge Bernie Sanders.
Really? What?
In case that didn't ever come through.
Never came across. What?
There's a bunch of takes on this, but I definitely think that the Sanders followers who have been out there knocking on doors and making phone calls need to jump into this and get behind Hillary. And I'm saying this as somebody who probably won't vote for her, but I think that organization actually needs to stay intact, because there is a potential, because of how far that they've come in proving that there's a progressive voice that needs to be heard, that if they stay connected to and part of this party, there's a chance in 4-8 years that they could take it over and own it. What you're seeing now is they got rid of the head of the DNC and replaced it with somebody who's probably like the actual Sith Lord. like they've replaced it with probably the person who was the mentor. Donna Brazile is probably the mentor of Debbie Wasserman Schultz to begin with. And this is all people who were connected to Clinton campaigns going forward or going backward throughout the history of her running for things. If you fast forward this to there not being a Clinton running for office, you can see that the Sanders supporters could be in this position again 4-8 years from now.
Kitty.
Oh my God, you're double catting.
Kitty cats. This is going to be our new clicker.
Yeah.
No, this is punishment. This isn't even a clicker.
Oh, it's total so
It's punishment.
That cat is flashing a Toxoplasma gondii filled toasted Cheerio at you.
Look at that kitty cat.
This cat is I like to call her one of the pointiest of cats.
Yeah. It's rubbing its toxo on you.
So you'll see I'm not really petting her very much, because if I pet her too much, she bites and scratches
It's probably going to spray you.
Daylights out of me.
Spray. I don't know if you could see that. Right.
But last night I did not sleep very well, because always when I house sit, I like to be like, oh, the cat should stay with me, like that's why I'm here, right, is to be with the cat. And so she likes to lay right here, right, but then she likes to put a paw right here,
steals your breath
paw
as you
right
sleep.
here,
She's after your jugular.
Yeah, she puts pressure here and here.
Ready to strike, ready to kill you.
And I'm like
Make a
terrified to
single
move
false
or
move.
touch her or anything. And I like had this flash of like, what if she pierced my jugular while I was in bed alone at this sitting house? Like, would I be able to dial 911 in time? Would I survive? Would I just bleed out in this bed and then she'd eat my eyeballs? Like, what would happen? And so I'm like freaking out about that. And then she started like licking my face and rubbing herself up against my face at about 4:55 this morning, and I had to give up and get up.
Gotta get that toxo in there deep.
Yeah, I'm talking.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear. Yeah, I heard about it so much on this program. I actually asked my vet about it. So my vet laughed.
Toxin?
Yeah, my vet laughed at it. She just
What? She's like, you have it.
she's like I've never heard anybody. You know, she just said it wasn't a big deal to worry about
Right.
with
Because
indoor pets.
She's got it.
She's got it.
This is the thing. Cat-loving people got it. That's how you tell the difference. People who don't think cats are good pets and think they're weird and out for themselves and maybe evil don't have toxo. Everybody with toxo's like, you know what? I gotta go build a cat shelter in the alley so that the stray cats have a place to breed and produce more toxo. I get it. This is how you become a veterinarian. You're infected with Toxoplasma gondii. You have guilt issues about animals. You want more cats out there in the world.
Well, I guess it is like one of those sci-fi episodes where you get infected, like one of the Star Trek episodes. I think there was a Star Trek whole 2-episode one on that about aliens taking over the Federation from the inside. So
you want to know one thing that doesn't cross over? People who are big fans of birds, and people who love cats. This is one of these.
Both of those things.
Have you ever talked to me or Justin? Ever?
This is not a big crossover. This is not a big crossover. People who want there to be birds in the world tend not to be huge cat enthusiasts.
I don't know if that's true. I know lots of cat people who like birds. A lot of bird people that I've met have cats.
Mm-hmm. Unless they're infected with Toxoplasma gondii, which is the way the cats stay in the game. Look, if
you are jumping to conclusions.
What about
you have no data to support your claims.
Yeah,
I do not appreciate non-scientific, unempirical opinions
so I've suggested
like this
before.
That perpetuate factual conversations.
I think we should take a little bit of the Patreon donations and do a 3-way toxo test. I think this would be perhaps illuminating. And maybe Dave.
I'm probably infected.
Yeah, let's get you on this.
I guarantee you I'm infected. I'm
like,
probably infected with like tiger versions of toxoplasmosis.
It's not like the Walking Dead virus or something.
It's okay. If you're not infected versus if you are infected, it just seems normal to want to eat brains. It's just what all my friends and neighbors are going around eating brains. It's what we do. We're zombies. It's like whatever. Like that's just the total. It's like Friday night. Let's go eat somebody's brains. When you're not a zombie, it's really obvious that there's a stark difference between those who are and are not infected.
Have you seen this country? I mean, you don't.
What I'm saying, you're going to prove my point. Be careful.
So you're saying that's why this country's so crazy right now?
Absolutely.
It's toxic. It's all toxic.
Have you seen
They're
how
gonna
many
discover-
cats are out there?
Question: is toxoplasmosis only in domestic cats, or does it spread? Because we found it in otters. So
It's
do we
otters,
know if
but
it's in wild cats?
So it
Probably.
only
Because
it's
I have
inside
literally been inside
I
a
can't.
tiger nest box.
Okay, I don't know if it's about tigers, but here's the thing. I'm amazed that you haven't listened to the parts of the show where I talk. But it only.
Justin, there have been over 500 episodes.
But I think I
can't
point out
remember everything.
single time that I've done those 500 episodes on toxic plasma gondii that it only completes its life cycle and reproduces in cats. It's
No, I
a
know
dead
that.
ender everywhere else.
Yeah, except that they found it in otters, which was a story that I reported, if you
Right.
remember that
They
one.
find it in otters, they find it in cattle, they find it in sheep. It can
No, but
go.
they found it. No, they found it in otters in an analogous state to when they find it in cats,
Oh,
which is why they were like, "Oh snap!
no.
There's a new wrinkle to the life cycle of toxo."
So maybe I don't listen when you talk on the show. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe you don't.
She told me all about that while she was here.
I complained about you the whole time.
Justin just nods when he's not
Actually,
talking.
I think the thing I remember was Blair, you talked about when you went to New York City and he kept looking up at the buildings or something.
Look at all the tall buildings.
But I did this in a portion of southeast southeast Manhattan. That was
It's
like
not tall buildings.
3-story buildings.
Yeah.
It was 3-story buildings, and I did. Oh my gosh! Look at all the tall buildings around here. New York is huge, and people are like, "Oh my god."
Yeah, and I was like, Justin, stop it! You're being a narc.
No, I retold the story. I retold the better story recently to somebody who I had just met.
Oh.
About trying to play it cool and looking for the Statue of Liberty.
So pointy.
So pointy.
So pointy.
So we get off. We're gonna go look at the Statue of Liberty, and we get off of the subway. And all of a sudden, as soon as we step off the subway, which is the closest subway exit to the Statue of Liberty, everybody's like, "Statue of Liberty tickets over here. We got your Statue of Liberty tickets. Who wants to see the lady? Come over here. I got your tickets." And Blair's like, "These are all a scam. Ignore everybody. Look straight ahead. Act like you know where you're going." Cool. So we do, and we're just like laser marching past all these people. We get out of the subway station, laser past another group of people. And then there's like a ferry building or something. It looks like it was built in the 1800s. I'm like, "Oh, camera!" She's like, "No!" And all of a sudden, "Hey, buddy, hey, Statue of Liberty over here. Hey, come on." I'm like, okay. No. I'm with it. I was just kidding. Just messing with you. That's all cool. She's like, "Don't do that again. Follow me. Don't make eye contact." I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I can do this.
She's a
So we're like,
city.
we're beelining past people who are like, tickets over here, and like they're kind of like, this is like 3 or 4 layers of these people in. So these ones are a little like, okay, these are probably good. And as we're walking, it goes, excuse me, sir, no disrespect. There's only 2 reasons you'll be standing where you're standing right now. One is you're a commuter, which you are not. The other is you're looking to find the tickets to the Statue of Liberty, which is why we're all out here. I'm like, okay, yeah, you got us. And so he's like, "Look, I got this badge that," and I'm looking at it, it's like, it looks fake. And it's like, "I'm wearing this jacket," and I'm like, some of the letters are missing. He's like, "The reason we're all out here is because they made us, they created a vendor program so people wouldn't get scammed." I'm like, "Well,
Whatever.
That sounds like a scam.
Well, but except that it's like, well, look how many people are doing it. Like, if this is like almost too obvious of a scam, this should be getting shut down every single morning if like 50 people are out here selling these fake tickets. So we buy the tickets. Blair buys them. I don't have the access to cash it. It was like $60, and we get the tickets. And he's like, "Okay, so you go down this, and you go to Pier 2, and it's just down that way." And we start walking, and about halfway down, we realize this is like a 2-mile walk. And we're looking back, and like, oh, we did get scammed. We did get scammed. There's no way. Like, the guy's gonna be gone if we went back there, and we're like, "Oh, these tickets didn't work. It's all new faces, right?" So we get there, and then big city, don't look to the left or the right, follow my lead. Blair's like, "Okay, go up to the counter, take the tickets up to the counter, find out if they're real." I'm like, what? You were like, we were like agreed together that we were going to go.
Because we could have just walked to the pier and bought tickets at the
Big City Blair didn't want to be embarrassed by having bought fake tickets.
Yeah. I was like, you mister, look at all the tall buildings. You go ask if these are real.
So I go up there, I'm like, okay, I bought these tickets, and I'm not really sure if I actually bought tickets to the thing. She's like, oh no, they're good. And they were the exact same price as if you'd walked up to the thing. But yeah, what they had done
But
is
by the
exactly...
way, were they tickets to the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah.
No.
What?
No.
What are you talking about?
Where did Justin go?
It was a boat tour that went on in a circle that went close to the Statue of Liberty.
Oh, that's what we were looking for, because we didn't... Yeah, but that's what we were doing.
We missed the last boat to the statue.
The circle one.
That would happen?
Okay.
I thought that was what we were going for. I didn't realize
No,
we had...
I wanted to actually go to the statue because I still have never... I've passed her a million times.
No,
but I've never...
that wasn't what happened. It wasn't like we missed the boat. It was like an extra $50 a piece.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay,
Yeah, it was just extra money. And then I was like pointing out, well, fuck, you can't even see the Statue of Liberty if you're in the Statue of Liberty. Like, what good is that?
That's like when you're at the top of the Empire State Building.
Oh my God, it's a great place to see the Chrysler Building. You can't see the Empire State Building for shit on the top of the Empire State Building.
You can see a lot inside the statue. Inside the statue is cool. I mean, because I grew up there. I went in and I went inside.
You grew up inside the Statue of Liberty?
I grew up inside the porch of the Statue of Liberty.
The torch, yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You do not get much more American than that unless you're...
I know.
No, I was going to say, that's more French, I think.
Yeah, well, they think they have an elevator in there now. They didn't when I was a kid, and you used to have to walk all the way up the inside, and they had this it's kind of a double spiral staircase you walked up in, and it was only like 1.5 feet wide,
nice.
and it was solid people all the way up and down.
And creaking probably. Like this is like possibly a death march. Like any minute this could fall.
Well, it's only 100 years old, and go in July when it's about 150 inside the statue because it is all copper, so it heats up really nice inside. But supposedly they've changed a lot of that and put an elevator or something inside it to make it more comfortable since 9/11 happened, because it was closed for years after 9/11. They just didn't think they could secure it. I'll tell you another really good scam, because I also lived in Washington, D.C., and there's a good one that Blair could, watch out for if you go to D.C., is if you're on the mall, people will approach you with fake credentials and tell you that you're in trouble, that they're the FBI.
No way.
That's another.
I would totally believe that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I would totally be like, you finally caught me.
Because you're in front of the Capitol for the first time. You've never been to D.C. and
is it the face recognition cameras of the mall? Is that what did it? You got me.
And then suddenly they're trying to sell you something. Telling you have to buy it, and you've now, and stuff like that. Was the one when I was in D.C. It was people coming up to you telling you that you've violated some kind of law on the mall. So, it was complete different. For me, it just took a long time to get used to living in the West when I was in Denver, because everybody's so friendly and genuine. I almost didn't know what to do. So I was like,
oh my gosh,
I would go into Home Depot and like 6 people want to help you, and I just thought, what's their angle?
What are you trying to sell me?
Right. What are you trying to? Are you selling shingles? What are you doing? Because I never had anybody help me in stores in the Northeast.
Blair, what was it you pointed out to me? It's like you could tell we're from California because we kept apologizing to everybody.
Yeah, because people would bump into us and we would go, sorry.
Yeah.
As if it's your fault. It's not.
Yeah, somebody stepped on my foot. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't have my foot there. It was obviously my mistake.
Yeah, it takes a lot of getting used to. It's when you're so used to having your guard up everywhere. And but I'm sure Blair's good at it. She's in San Francisco. That has that's kind of.
Compared to New York, I'm a softie.
Yeah, but San Francisco has its darker side, right? I mean, so.
I feel like it did. Well, it depends.
It does.
In Chinatown, yeah. But in the marina, no. It's
Yeah,
soft
and that's
as a
the
cotton
biggest
ball.
tourist trap. We went to a comedy
No,
club.
Marina's not tourist trap. That's North Beach. Marina is where all of the yuppie housing is.
Okay, but wait, okay, now I'm sorry. The Pier 51 or whatever it is. Like, it's not
39.
39, whatever. It's a number.
Yeah.
It's some pure number. Stupid combination of things. But it's like it's not very tourist trap. It's expensive and it's a lot of like gift shops. But it's not like the comedy club we went into where they didn't have a price on the drinks and then you had to pay to leave.
Yep. What was that?
Oh, the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah.
But we did see Louis C.K., so you can't.
For like an hour testing out material.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic show. But I realized, like, yeah, they never charged us for any drinks. Like, I'm waiting for the guy to come back by and take the thing. And it turned out the drinks were prohibitively expensive. And if I had seen the cost ahead of time, but then you had to make it through like 5 or 6 bouncers to leave the joint.
Oh, yeah. They had to check your receipt like 5 times.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a trap.
That happened to me once in college when Times Square used to be really seedy. In college, we went into a strip bar, and then there was like a $40 cover to leave or something like that, and it was like some of us didn't have it, and we were loaning each other money, and that was the point, was to get all the money out of you before you left. Like every dollar from your friend, give me another $1, just to get out, because you're going to get your head beat in.
That stuff doesn't really fly in California. I've never encountered anything like that in California.
It doesn't. Nothing. There's nothing like that in Denver. It's because now that weed's legal, everybody's just stoned everywhere, so it's fine. And nobody goes out, so.
Such a good society has been built. There's no crime suddenly. No crime.
Well,
Nobody's leaving the house to commit a crime.
You know what they did do?
Drugs grow in the backyard. Who cares? Why leave?
What they did do that you won't like is they made so much money. When I first moved here and they had legalized it, they made so much money in tax revenue. I forget how many millions of dollars they made, and the part of the way they passed it was promising everybody you would get a rebate back if they made more than a certain amount. And it was crazy money. Every person was going to get a couple of $1,000s or something back, and they didn't give any of it back. They passed a new law that said we're going to take it and put it towards the Western Stock Show, which is a big cow show in Denver, and they took it all and kept it after all that was over.
That's what politicians do.
Well, I moved here. I was telling people here, I'm like, I don't know, in New York, you'd never get that money back. You realize that they don't.
Alaska gives like some kind of oil dividend to its citizens. Right? There should be a pot dividend.
Well, the oil dividend's going to go away. That's going away because the oil companies are hurting so bad that they're going to start cutting the dividend, and people live on that there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, people. I'm a citizen of Alaska, and that's how I live. Yeah.
Sarah Palin. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's gonna be rough. People are gonna be pretty unhappy when they're not living off of when they don't get that money. That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, all 25 of them are going to be upset and vote for Trump or something. Blair, I appreciate you staying up this late because I know you got up at 4:55 or something.
That's correct.
So I do appreciate you hanging out. I thought there would be other people hanging out. I didn't know it would just be me.
No, it's all right. I'm having fun.
I sent the link out to whomever would be here, but just you tonight.
Lazy people.
That's right.
How dare they?
Get
No,
on
it was
the
really
hangout.
it was really cool seeing the Bad Astronomer on, and that was awesome. That was really awesome. I followed him for years, and that's awesome. So.
I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, he's great. I've known him for a while now, and he's just a wonderful person, fabulous geek, very into geek culture. Identity 4 can't usually make the hangouts. Boo. Yeah. We should get Phil on more often. That would be good. It's like every once in a while I go on an interview getting spree. I'm like, I need to get people on the show, and then I
My
don't.
friend who did that whole monkey situation that I was telling you about with the birth control and stuff, she just moved to the West Coast. She moved back to my hood. So I might actually be able to have her like on the show, like sitting next to me one show.
Cool.
Yeah, and now she works for the VA for women's health, so.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, she has a presidential management fellowship.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Does she have any goats?
No, but she does have 2 cats that are very amazing.
Oh.
Their names are Miette and Artemis.
Ooh.
Miette means crumb in French.
Oh, wow. Cute.
Yeah, so she's a very cute, like, I don't think it's a tabby. She's like, but she's a bunch of different colors, and she has like half of a mustache. I don't know. Anyway, she's very pretty. And then Artemis is black and very, very fluffy. Artemis, not Optimus. Ben Optimus. Artemis.
You're explaining what yuppies are to people in the chat room.
That's correct. Somebody asked.
I was just laughing at the link that you decided to put in the chat room.
That's like my favorite thing. Let me Google that for you.
What's a yuppie? Oh, God.
Young, upwardly mobile professional is what it used to stand for.
Oh, is that there? Right? Well, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That was like the 80s.
Yeah, young, upwardly mobile professionals, the yuppies, that usually at a certain point, then they became, if they got married, then they became dinks.
Dinks.
Right? The yuppie dinks. Double income, no kids.
What?
Yeah.
Never heard that?
No.
Yeah.
That's a dink. So I guess
just have bros and yuppies is all I got.
I guess we're
Bros?
Bros, yuppies, hipsters, and techies. That's what we have.
Yeah, I was reading that San Francisco is becoming mostly techies. And
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
They were showing pictures of some of the buildings being replaced with much bigger buildings, weren't you telling me adding a 3rd story or something to houses or something like that?
Oh, there are a lot of houses that are being rebuilt and added. They're adding another story, or people go in and buy a house for $1.5 million and then remodel it so it has another floor, and then they want to sell it for $3 million. And
at least they didn't go the New York route. I mean, because when I was in Boston, Boston's neat because everything's kind of protected, and but it's all been renovated a lot. The New York route was just knock it down. I mean, they knocked down Penn Station, this glorious, huge train station, and they put Madison Square Garden there. And to this day, the largest train station in the United States is underneath Madison Square Garden. It's terrible, Penn Station. And they're figuring out how many, it's some crazy number, like $25 billion to replace it. And nobody can come up with the money. And people live in, I used to commute through that every day, and it's a misery. And it's because New York just knocked everything down and built skyscrapers everywhere. And so hopefully San Francisco, catches itself before it starts going apart.
I don't know. I've heard some interesting things about San Francisco real estate recently, like the big tech buildings, where a lot of buildings, the big companies like Twitter and others will like rent space out that they don't need so that they have the potential for growth, and now a lot of that kind of extra space, those companies are trying to rent it out and get rid of it and get other people using it, and so a lot of stuff is kind of sitting vacant actually right now.
Wow. That's crazy.
So there's so there's some really interesting dynamics happening as a result of like that growth, but then how far is it going to grow? And it seems like it might be starting to stall at this point. So
Denver has had a huge housing boom, and they just raised the maximum height on buildings in Denver because uh, because of its location, all the builders pulled out in the recession. So when nothing was being built, now everybody wants to be here, and now they're building like mad. They're building apartment complexes everywhere.
Yeah, Denver's like one of the fastest growing areas right now, isn't it? Like
It's crazy, yes,
Yeah.
because there's jobs here. There's just
No, because weed
lot of
is
jobs.
legal there. That's why.
no. That's
That's
bringing,
not why.
that is mostly bringing homeless people. Believe it or not,
Yeah,
we're
that makes
having
sense.
there's a huge problem with homeless because
That
they
makes
never
sense.
they never had it before, really, and now suddenly downtown it's everywhere, and
Okay.
you know,
So that makes absolute total sense because one of the reasons you're going to find people of any socioeconomic level being heavily impacted by law enforcement, why you're going to see people of lower economic groups being impacted by law enforcement is because they're not smoking their weed in their backyard by their pool, which is 1,200 feet from the neighbor's yard, who can also do whatever they want with their backyard. Like it's because they've got to be out in public because that is their living room. That's their
Right.
backyard is in that alley, right? And so that puts them into direct contact with law enforcement who's working the streets because they don't work backyards. That's not where the police are. So it does make sense that in search for some sort of policing relief, people would migrate.
well, it's people are moving. People are coming here with not a lot of money
Yeah.
to get high, and then don't have a job and don't leave. And so that's a lot of the homeless that are here are coming from other states. And
Oh, right, yeah.
I don't know how they're getting here. I don't know how.
Oh,
You know,
for
they
free.
don't- Yeah, I guess.
No. So this is. I mean, and on a micro version of this, I know existed. It used to be 20 years ago policy for the police in Davis when they encountered a homeless person to give them the offer of a bus ticket to Sacramento or an Amtrak ticket to San Francisco. And this is how they handled homelessness in Davis. They gave you a ride out of town one way. And I have no doubt that there are people there's law enforcement in Nevada, possibly California, possibly Kansas, could be anywhere, who are like, you know what, we could continue to arrest you or send patrol cars out to deal with you, and this is going to run up an X amount of money, or we could fork over $80 for a one-way ticket to Denver. And hey, they got free weed there, so you should totally agree with this. Right, I have no doubt that this is a big part of what's going to take place. And it happens.
Just don't
to
try to get some and take it on the plane with you when you leave.
Right.
Well,
Yeah. Jeez.
Right.
That does not work.
But this
you know
is also
that saying, you can't take it with you?
right.
And don't try
Oh
to drive.
yeah, that was made up in reference to weed coming out of Colorado. You're right.
Yeah.
And it's also that you look at San Francisco's homeless population as being pretty intense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I explained there's the micro version of the city to city, like, okay, we're a small town that doesn't have the resources. Here's the Amtrak ticket to San Francisco. I can totally see states being like, hey, look, California has better unemployment welfare benefits than we have here. Why don't you just go there and here's your ticket, or Denver or wherever. So liberal-based economies that are looking to create safety nets will always attract law enforcement from less progressive states to enact this sort of policy.
Don't try to drive it out either, because that's the other thing that happens. Don't try to come here and drive to Utah with a trunk full of weed, because you got Utah on one side and Kansas and Nebraska on the other side, and they're just like, they sit and wait at the border.
Oh, they'll take your car, your property, your house if you were stupid enough to buy that. Yeah, they'll take everything with that property related to drugs. Also, avoid trafficking marijuana. Look, trafficking narcotic.
Good quote.
Find something that's
T-shirt.
find something that's easily transportable. Don't do something that in order to make a profit you have to move hay bales of the stuff. It's size prohibitive if nothing else. Yeah.
All traffic marijuana. That's a T-shirt.
Yeah, you have to have a semi full of it to really turn a profit.
I'm glad.
Uber weed, you guys?
No, look,
Uber.
hey,
That's what it is.
but
Uber.
things like Denver is impacting California's economy. It pays half what it used to go and cure weed. It used to be you could be like, okay, I'm out of work for a couple months between jobs. I'm going to go to Chico or Humboldt. I'm going to cure weed for some folks. I'll make like $360 a day. Now you're lucky if you get like 120. It's really cut into the curing, not the cultivation so much, but as the curing aspect of it's impacting economies, which is why I've always been against legalization. I'm like, I got a lot of good friends in the business. It's like it's going to hurt their industry.
Friends.
Are you running for office? Are you running for?
I totally am. Like as a Californian, hey, I got a lot of friends in Mendocino who have, their industry is impacted by all these legalization efforts. It's the only reason California isn't legal. It's because it's a profit center. We all have friends who make a living doing this. So, of course we don't want it to be legalized. It's going to hurt our friends and family.
Well,
Interesting.
Yeah, there's other stuff to see in Colorado. We have bears and.
Yeah, who cares? Nobody cares.
There's
Bears?
Pretty.
Yeah,
in the mountains.
in the mountains.
You've got an old train in Durango.
You remember Colorado, Rocky Mountains? It's a lot of mountains there. Big area for bears.
I got a speeding ticket once in Eagle, Colorado, which if nobody knows what Eagle, Colorado is, it's a ski resort that's just maybe one tier down from going to Aspen. It's for the ultra wealthy, right? It's where Kobe Bryant got his
in trouble.
Rape case.
Yep.
But it just happened to be, it was like
Great story.
nice big downhill slant from the Rockies. I was in an 81 Civic wagon at the time, and I'm cruising. I was just doing a tour of, I was down in New Mexico, went to Colorado. I think I went up through Utah. I don't know. I was the Four Corners. I was hitting everything. Anyway, get pulled over. The guy goes, "How fast were you going?" I'm like, 85. He's like, "You were nowhere near 85." I'm like, well, I pointed to my speedometer. I'm like, "There's a little pin at 85, and the needle stops moving there." So I just assumed, it was at least 85.
These are things to not say to a police officer.
Actually, the thing not to say to a police officer.
This is a textbook. Justin is an open textbook of things not to say to a police officer.
Well, the number one thing, by the way, I have the two best answers for if you're pulled over and they ask you how fast you're going. One is, depends, how long were you following me? Or why did I pull you over? Depends how long you followed me, right? Or the other one is because you're a cop. If you were a firefighter, you probably would let you go.
Yeah, and then you get a ticket.
That works
immediately.
So anyway, the ticket got written at 115 miles an hour.
Whoa.
And the guy goes, "Okay, so you have two options. You can pay the bond, which is $400, and you can continue on your way. Or you can spend the night in jail." And he said it just exactly like that. I'm like, well...
And then you would owe what? Nothing?
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it was the weekend. I was going to have to wait until the judge was even available. It might have been 2 days. So I'm like, okay, well, let's hit the ATM machine, and I'll pay the bond. So we go hit the ATM machine. I take out my max, which is thankfully $400. And we go down to the jailhouse. And I'm looking at this jailhouse. And I've been traveling, right? I've been, hitting the motels and everything. I'm looking. And this, I didn't realize, of course, going in, but this is a ski resort town. Mm-hmm. So the jail cells are nicer than any motel I paid money to stay in.
That's what I was going to say.
So I'm like, wait a sec. I'm like, I got the cash in my pocket. We're good there. You let me stop at the ATM machine. I appreciate it. But if I do the jail option, is that where I'm staying? That room over there?
With Bubba. Yes.
Well, no, there's nobody else in there either, and it's it's gonna be Chad anyway. It's gonna be like, oh, it's a total bummer. Like I was just like
No, I had too much
weird
stops with
after
the
a
kid.
gnarly downhill, and
Nice.
it was gonna be like whatever. And I'm like, is that where I'm staying? And he's like, yeah, that's jail. I'm like, that's not jail. That's nicer than the motel room I stayed in the last couple of nights. I'm like, and you guys feed me too? Like, you're also going to provide a meal if I stay, right? Like, this is actually, I think, a better deal. You made this. I'm telling them, like, I'm berating like the clerk and the officer. Like, you made your jail too nice. You really did. You screwed. This is supposed to be a deterrent, and you're giving me incentive to stay with you. Like. This is the like.
You were in rich people jail. You were in rich people jail. Okay.
I'm like, yeah, this is rich people jail, right? I'm like, okay.
Martha
Here's the
Stewart.
thing.
Like, he brings Martha Stewart in because she, bribed somebody on the ski.
Yeah, Martha Stewart probably did
So I
not
negotiated the bond on the spot. I'm like, look, here's the thing. For $400, I would rather stay there for the next 2 nights, maybe a week. How long can I possibly drag this on, right? This is going to be, I don't have to be anywhere for like 2 weeks. So this is nicer than where I'm going to be sleeping otherwise. So it's not worth $400 to leave. And they're kind of like, I'm seeing like the deadening of their eyes, like, we should have pulled over a nicer car. We pulled over an 81 Civic wagon that's got a happy face and crossbones painted on the hood, and this guy doesn't have any money and doesn't care. I'm like, look, I'll give you $100 bond to be on my way. I'm not paying $400. $400, I'm staying at your hotel. This is like a 4-star hotel, and you're gonna have to feed me. And they went for it. They said they were like, okay.
How are you not in a Mexican prison or something right now? Like,
No. I get out of Mexican prisons all the time. It's about sweet talking them and making them feel like their Mexican prison is the nicest Mexican prison you would have ever stayed at. And you're happy to stay there and have them feed you and make you, take up space.
This is like a modern day Tom Sawyer.
It was fantastic. But they were like, okay.
Sounds about right.
Tell the truth. You started talking about politics and they made you leave.
No. No, but the disclaimer was they were like, okay, so just so you know, if you don't come back to the state, and I'm like, I'm not. Once I'm in Colorado, I'm like, for a very long time. Well, it's only your bond counts towards your ticket. So if we let you out with a $100 bond, that's just less of your ticket that you've paid. I'm like, that's fine. That's fine. I'll pay it later. I don't care. It's not about the money. It's about I would rather stay in your facility for like 2 weeks, right? Than have to fork over any money. So they knocked it down to $100, and I skedaddled out of there.
Of course you did.
You don't have an autobiography or anything, or maybe
right? He needs to have.
You mean a arrest record?
He needs to write his stories, right?
Yeah, you should write all this down. Do a like a one of those novels. Get on Oprah.
Life of a salesman.
This was right after bailing Naropa. This was like one of the first on-the-road adventures leaving the Naropa Institute because they wanted $10,000. I'm like, $10,000? I could go to jail for less money. I have a better time. Like, yeah.
Wow. Very interesting life. It's amazing. Well, thank you for hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate it.
Dave, every time. You're fun to hang out with.
Thank you, Blair, for staying up since you've been up for 18 hours.
No problem.
I don't want you to fall asleep and get scratched to death by the cat.
No, she's not allowed in the bedroom tonight, I think.
After last night, I'd be like, get out. You cat, you get out now.
You've already got the toxo, so, I mean, I think we all have it.
We need to get tested. I think we need to do a test for this.
I think
Good
you
night,
need to
identity.
So I'm 100% sure I have it.
Well, we could wager on it. We can make side bets and do synthetic derivatives and create a new housing crisis.
It's good for you. It's like fluorinated water. Everybody should have it. Fluorinated water. So I think it's
So
fine.
it's controlling our minds, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, we probably need some of that in the country right now after this year, because this has been like the year from hell. So,
This 2016 can go away. It can just.
but this is also the year that Kai got kissed by a girl.
It is. It was the cutest thing. Oh my goodness. It was hilarious. So we're at an outdoor concert last night, picnic in the park kind of thing. We're in a big amphitheater. We realized that Kai's friend from school, Dot, and her family are there. So of course the kids, they find each other and they come back to our blanket that we have out, and the kids, they're just having fun, first dancing, and then like they start wrestling. They're wrestling all over the place. Dot is just like manhandling my child.
Yay, Dot.
And I'm like, wow, you're like a monkey. And she goes, a gorilla. And she starts, and she starts acting like a gorilla, and she's like headlocking Kai and like throwing him around. And the next thing I know is she like has him pinned on the ground, and she's like hovering over his face. And I was like, what is going on there? And then she gets up and she's like, I kissed him.
She's a man-eater.
I was like, you did? I was like, Kai, did she kiss you? And he goes, yeah. And I kissed her back.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Whoa, here she comes.
I was laughing. I was
my
like,
gosh.
oh my goodness. And so then, of course, I had to tell her parents. And so her mom is like, what did we tell you about kissing people? Dot.
Oh man, they're in trouble. Boy, are they in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
She's gonna have a great immune system.
She's
Yeah.
fantastic.
They're going to
She's-
be young grandparents, very young grandparents.
Oh, gross. Stop it.
My 3-year-old's latest thing is
Surprise.
she states whatever it is she wants, like, you know, I want a Milky Cup, or I want my Bink, or whatever it is, followed by, or I'm out of here.
Outta
Like,
here.
or I'm out of here, and she's like, points. Like, I
I
don't
want
know.
Aquanuts or I'm out of
And
here.
I don't know what, like, there's a cartoon or a show or something she saw that was in there, and I didn't see it myself. But it's the stupid cutest thing in the world. It's like, I need a Milky Cup, or I'm out of here. Like, she's just gonna storm off like, that's it, no Milky Cup, I'm gone. Later, old people, big people, parent types.
That's hilarious until she gets to preschool and is rude.
She's been watching the
she's
debates,
over.
apparently. You know.
Oh, yeah. Let
Oh,
me
yeah.
tell you something, Dad. I need my Milky Cup now, or you're banished.
Wow,
Let
you're
me
really
just
good at
say-
that. You're really good at that, Blair.
Scary.
All right, Identity 4 went to bed.
Identity 4 went to bed. I just wanted to say thank you because the Gem Doctor asked before we go, did I miss the 10,000 plus YouTube subscriptions party? Well, we're kind of having the party now, but I said thank you in the middle of TWIS, and
Wait, did we make it to 10,000?
yeah, we made it to
You did,
10,000.
Everybody knows this.
I didn't know.
Yeah, so let me
Check your Twitter once in a while.
check your Twitter. I even look here. Here it is. I will screen share the. I'm teaching myself how to use Photoshop. I hate it. I hate Photoshop. But I made this. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
That's awesome.
We made it to 10,000 subscribers. We couldn't have done it without any of you. So great. And we are now up to
Ben says 10,090.
10,090. It was 10,089 earlier today.
Mine's
So
10,091, so
already growing a little bit more, which is
that
very
is
exciting.
freaking awesome.
So are we going to go crash the YouTube studio now?
Now we can.
Nice.
Yes.
Can you really?
Yeah, so now that we are at 10,000, we can use the LA YouTube Space Studios. So
Nice.
We can we can use the New York one. We can use, and yeah, I think 10,000 is basically the base limit to be able to use YouTube facilities. And they start talking to you a little bit more once you have 10,000. So.
Nice. Has the talking begun?
Yeah, well, I was already kind of talking to them a little bit like previously. So hopefully there'll be more talking.
And some swag. We'll get some YouTube swag.
I know, it's so cute. So Kai is really into YouTube, and Dan, the Diamond Minecart, the Minecraft channel. Dan TDM is his favorite guy, but he's learned about the YouTube play buttons that you get when you hit certain numbers of subscribers. You get these. You get a gold or a diamond or whatever YouTube play button if you have it right. And so he's convinced. He tells me today, he's, Mommy, you have 10,000 subscribers? I said, yes. He goes, you're going to get a diamond play button in 1 year.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
He's on it.
Oh,
He knows.
okay.
He's in the nets.
I know, he's on
How
it.
many are they for the play buttons? Like 1 million?
Yeah, I think it's like 1 million. I mean, I don't know when they start. It's like 100,000 is one, and like they at different levels.
Is that for plays or for subscribers?
Subscribers?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Awesome.
10th of the way.
10th of the way, we're getting there. For a little award, something we could put on the wall.
Yeah.
We reached something! Awesome! I am just so excited, though. I mean, really, truly, I've been looking at that 10,000 number for a while, and it's been a goal of mine to get there. And I am so excited that everybody got us there. It's great.
It was pretty cool.
Awesome.
I know, and it's neat to watch look at the YouTube statistics, because it has kind of, this little line that slowly goes up, and then like the week right before we hit it, it goes blurp. And so there was a nice little peak there where everybody was helping out at the end, and it was really, really great.
That's awesome.
But this is not the end.
No.
This is a
It's only the
story.
beginning.
The future is still ahead of us.
The next chapter. We got more goals, more things we're going to do. It's one thing at a time, people. One foot in front of the other. That's right.
When's that zoo video going to be plopped?
I was going to do it this week, but I didn't, so probably Monday.
Okay.
I'll plop it on Monday.
Will you, when you plop it, will you email me the link so that it reminds me to send it to the marketing people?
I'll send you the link beforehand so that
Great.
you can see it and send it to them ahead of time.
Great.
If you want.
Great.
How do
you think it turned out?
I think it's good.
Great.
I think it's good. I don't know. I don't know. I just made it.
You're the
asked-
producer.
You asked the questions. I edited it. Did it. Yeah, and then what was the other thing that I was going to say? Oh, we're going to have another Patreon hangout this Friday at 3 p.m. for the Patreon patrons. So, are you around, Blair?
3 p.m. PST?
Mm-hmm.
I could try to do it from my phone. I'll be at work.
Okay. Are you around, Justin?
And what?
Friday, 3 p.m.
I'm at work.
You're at work. Okay. Just checking.
I could, if nothing else, will there be a chat room or no?
No.
Okay.
It'll just be a hangout.
Okay.
Will Blair be in the monkey pen or something really?
No, I think I'll be in charge of high school aged volunteers at that point.
No. So the monkey pen.
The monkey pen,
Mhm,
exactly.
Mhm.
Hey, thanks, Wiz Mike.
More like the pigs.
Wow.
They don't I'm like their mother. They like leave detritus everywhere. I'm in charge of all these kids. There's just like dirty dishes and trash, and like they don't put things back where they belong. Just everywhere.
You are the youngest old person I know. You know, when you were here, I remember driving around, and you went, you know, these kids today, they can't know where they're going. They have to use their GPS. As I was punching the GPS into my car to get to the tea factory, and she's going, these kids don't know what they're doing. I was like, wow.
Blair is the youngest old person. I will agree with that entirely.
What?
Get off my lawn.
Speak up, young lady.
Yeah, and that's right. The woman in the person that was taking us through the tour, after we took the tour, I got this whole critique on what she did wrong during the tour. The woman that worked at the tea factory for 25 years, giving the tour. Here's all the things she did wrong with the group. Ready?
I train tour guides for a living. It's part of my job.
It was amusing. I was like, I wanted to tell her. Lousy.
Wow.
This is what you get when you hang out with Blair.
Oh man, make me sound like a mess.
No, brilliant.
A real wet blanket.
No, we need more no, because the kids today, they're playing Pokemon and wandering around. There's people on my Twitter feed going, I'm wandering around at 3 o'clock in the morning playing Pokemon on the city streets. I'm like, why?
Hey, come rob me, please.
Right.
No, there are people like in the middle of parks here in Portland. Like they go to Mount Tabor at like 3 in the morning, going after Pokey. It's a big Pokey stop. I don't know. They're like random people in parks in the middle of the night. It's kind of insane.
There's always random people in parks in the middle.
No, but it's different now.
There.
It's different now.
They're not doing
they're less
fun
dangerous.
illicit things. They're doing fun legal things.
Well, now they're starting. Now they're going to start using it. The Tinder is picking it up, and they're going to start doing, like both Tinder and the Pokemon folks are going to be using it for dating. So
it's so weird.
yeah, because so many people have met through doing Pokemon that Tinder picked up on it right away and said we should be doing this for Tinder, so you can just go meet.
Pokinder.
Yep. I'm sure nothing can go. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong?
What could go
Hey
wrong?
Blair, are you using Pokemon at the zoo yet? You should be.
Oh,
They released an official statement about it because there were other zoos where they didn't release an official statement, and then there were unsolicited like Pokemon meetups, and then people were trying to cross barriers and all this kind of stuff. So they went ahead and they were
people.
Yeah,
People.
yeah. Because they'll be like, oh, there's a Pikachu right over there. I see it, but I have to go into this employees only area, and then they do it anyway. So that's not
There's
good.
a Pikachu and the polar bear. Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, they did release an official statement about it, and they were just like, oh, please come check out the 3 gyms and all these Pokestops, blah, 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 all these words I don't understand. And then and they said, but be sure to check out the actual animals at the zoo as well, and be sure to be aware of your surroundings and the other visitors at the zoo, all that kind of stuff.
Actually,
I didn't see.
the Denver Zoo is giving discounts to people that are using it as a Pokestop or whatever.
Yeah, I think you sent me that, right? So that after 1 o'clock or something, it's only like $5 to get in or something. It's pretty smart because after 1 o'clock, admissions drop pretty considerably at the zoo. So it's a good idea.
I say put the Pikachus right in the tiger pen and just route the people right in there. And
Not fun.
Yeah, kill
Not
a couple birds with a few tigers.
who's gonna know?
Nope. Not funny.
Not funny. Okay.
Especially with the San Francisco Zoo.
Oh, there's a story there I don't know.
Oh yeah, one of the
Dead
tigers.
people. Tiger.
Oh, they were probably drunk or something. I'm guessing.
The tiger hadn't been drinking. I don't think so.
Yeah. They were people taunting the tigers.
Let's change the subject.
In Denver, people fall off of mountains all the time, and they don't do anything about it. So.
In
Well,
San
they don't
Diego,
blame
2
them.
people walked off a cliff playing Pokemon.
It's true.
Ooh.
It's true. Not pretty.
So all we're saying is natural selection still is.
Yeah, then there's like other people who've lost 20 pounds since they started playing because you have to walk around. So like, that side of things I don't hate so much about it. But really, the thing that kind of made me change my mind about it is that I was never into Pokemon, but I read this like blog post where somebody said, okay, imagine if you will, a game where it tracks your GPS and your phone is like a wand. And as you walk around, you can collect spells, cast spells, be in duels, be sorted into a house. You can brew potions, catch magical creatures. And I was like, yep, I'm in. I want that game. They're like, yep, basically that is to Harry Potter as Pokemon is the Pokemon Go game is to Pokemon. So just because you don't like Pokemon doesn't mean that like you can't respect people for liking it. And that, like, yeah, I would play that game in a second.
Such a nerd.
Oh.
Such a nerd. No,
I am who I am,
wrong with that.
Justin.
Good to be
Not
a
that there's
nerd.
anything wrong with that, but such a nerd.
I stopped trying to pretend I wasn't a nerd many years ago.
Good for you.
It was about second semester freshman year of college.
Mhm.
Like, oh, right. Nope.
I am
There's
what
no
I
hiding
am.
it. Yeah,
I am
my
what
first
I am.
semester freshman year of college, I was like, oh, I'm the only person from my school going to this school. I don't know anyone here. And I moved into a dorm room with a bunch of cool kids, and I was like, I'm going to be a cool kid. Did not turn out great. It did not take me long. I think it took me like 2 weeks to be like, oh, yep. No way around it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, Ben
the
Rothek, you're right. You're right. She is pretty awesome as a nerd. You're right. We wouldn't want her any other way.
No. All right, everybody. We are going to go to bed. This
I
was a
already
great
did.
conversation.
I went to bed a long time ago. I don't know what
I know, you've been here with your eyes open.
I don't know what y'all are. They've been closed for a long time. I'm actually sleep talking.
I can believe
Something I'm
that.
capable of doing.
You
at
are
least,
capable.
at least you're ending the show this time when Justin's here, because there's been a lot of shows where you end it and he's just not there.
He's just
And
gone.
you guys say goodnight to him like he's there.
Oh yeah. Fast asleep. Fast asleep already.
Good night, Justin. And there's just an empty moon in the
Well,
back.
the camera is actually mounted to the ceiling. This is my bedspread. I've been in bed this entire time.
Oh my god, that sounds awesome.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching This Week in Science. We look forward to seeing you again next week. More science news. I hope everyone has a really great weekend. Enjoys lots of science. I have so many science stories that I did not cover today. I might have to do a random Periscope tomorrow just to get them out because I got lots of stories that I wanted to talk about that are cool. But anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I didn't even get to talk about the lichen. Oh man,
No
we'll have to talk about that
lichen.
next week.
I know. Tomorrow night, TWIS Minion Hangout with Ed Dyer and other minions. ScienceIsland.org. Look for the Minion Hangout if you want to hang out there. Dave, thank you for joining us and hanging out this evening.
Thank you.
Super
Thank you.
cool.
This was fun. Super.
Yeah.
Dave,
Do
yeah,
it
you should show
again.
up to the Twist Minion Hangout once in a while.
It's on really late. I think
It's the same time. It's earlier than this is right now.
is it?
Yeah.
We started this a while ago.
Yeah.
So it's all about when it starts, too.
Well, I appreciate Blair staying up because she's been up for 29 hours now.
Oh yeah,
Which
that's
means
accurate.
that she should probably at this point say good night, Blair.
Good night, Blair.
Say good night, Kiki.
Good night, Kiki.
Say good night, Dave.
Good night, Dave.
Good night, minions.
Good night, everyone.